Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome once again to another Thursday night of the Sports Crib. Excuse me, home of the Sports Crib Network. Oh man, there's sports everywhere tonight. I would imagine that's why some of the guys are running a little late. But let's see. I'm watching the Grizzlies and Minnesota. I watched Minnesota break out to a 26-point lead. Now they do have it back up to 12. But a lot of games on. I believe those of you that had I think you used the imperfect union link. Okay, let me let me. Okay, I think you probably used last week's. Anyway, um, okay, let's make sure everyone has the same uh, email here. So I'm gonna resend it to you guys. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I try to. It was probably a link from everyone here. Uh, okay. I do see that Demetrius is here. Uh, I guess the cold pills worked. No travel this week, and
Yeah.
you're back, huh?
Yep. Tough week for your boy, but I'm back 100% ready to rock. So, yeah, we all get it.
Well, we missed the start of a baseball season with you last week,
Yeah, but
and
it's interesting. We're ready to rock. We got 3,000 hits coming tomorrow. We're good to go.
yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Uh, it seems what do you get? 98, 99 against the Yankees.
Yeah,
Just couldn't get over that hump.
yeah.
But
Then they walked him this afternoon.
it did.
they they he had two men on and they walked him and the crowd went nuts, went bananas on Yankees manager. Um, Probably was a good baseball play, but there were people who took their kids out of school and didn't go to work today after last night, and they had, I don't know, probably 30,000 people there, maybe 25,000 people there, and then he walks them, and they went crazy. So
Well, I mean,
yeah,
uh, the same problem you have in the NBA, right?
yep,
You say you want to take your kids to the game because a certain team is there,
yep,
and then the stars in street clothes.
right, right, and in particular in the NBA, that sucks because teams from the other conference only come in once, right? You
See,
only so like if you're a Piston fan, you're only getting Golden State once. And if they sit Steph and you bought tickets 6 months ago, so your kid can see Steph Curry. First of all, I don't know why you're a Piston fan, but you might not be, right? You might be a Golden State fan that lives in Detroit. People live all over the country, and then like you said, you buy tickets months in advance, only to find your guy sitting, right? And so, yeah, but
well,
it's there's plenty of chances.
but a lot of times, you want to see how your teams, plays against the best. Like you say, you only get a chance to see, these
Yep.
guys once in a while. You know what I mean? The Lakers are coming to town, AD and
LeBron. Right.
LeBron.
Yep.
It doesn't matter whether you're a Piston fan or not.
Right.
If you're a
Right.
basketball fan,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I hear you.
but
Yeah.
but what about that 4-7 start? I don't know. Did you guys? I didn't see what happened today.
They won today. They got a 3-0 win today, and so they're 5-7. And it is. I'm gonna sound like I'm making excuses, but, but they have more injuries than any team in baseball right now, and it is muscle tendon type stuff, which screams we came back too fast. There's a reason they have 6 weeks for spring training because you have to condition your body, and we've had two rotational pitchers go down. Javi Baez is out with a thumb. These guys are all time on the 10-day. Now, that being said, we're making a lot of errors. We're making defensive errors that have cost us, I'm going to say, 3 games. They could easily have a flip flop record, be 7-5, or even something like 8-4. So they got to clean up some stuff defensively. I think that we got to get guys back. Javi Baez makes a difference in that lineup, obviously, and our second and fourth guys in the rotation, both on the 10-day. One with a shoulder, one with an elbow, I think. And it's nothing serious. We don't think they're serious, but it is. And other teams are seeing those injuries. That is when you come back too fast because you want to get that full 162 in. They rush back. They rush back to regular season games, and guys are just getting hurt. Now that being said, I think we're at middle of the road team, and I'm fine. We're competitive. I like the attitude of the team. They got some young players, right? We had a guy foul a ball off his foot. The guy who's coming up should be our everyday center fielder. So some fluke injuries, and we've played some good teams. By the way, the White Sox are a good team. The Yankees are a good team. So it's a combination of some injuries, and we played some good teams. But I'm fine with them being 5-7 right now. I'm fine with that.
um, what do you think about the way the season is starting? I see some outrageous scores: 12 runs, 18 runs. I
Yeah.
mean, then you see the normal, like you say, 3-0, 2-0. I mean, a few years ago, we were talking about how many home runs were being hit,
Yeah.
the ball. Now we're talking about, as we said before, things to speed up the game. What's your take on all this?
I would wonder how many of those high scoring games are in warm weather. Bats, slow down. Detroit has played the bulk of their games in Detroit and Chicago, and it's been cold. They haven't had what I would call a warm weather game yet. And that's why we're playing games that are 4-2, 2-1, 3-0, 4-3. Those are indicative of the scores the Tigers have played so far. Uh, it takes guys time to acclimate to weather because they've been off and then they spent time in Florida and Arizona. And then you bring them up to Detroit and tell them to go play baseball and it's 42 degrees outside, right? Yeah, you're going to get a 2-1 game because pitchers are always ahead of hitters anyway. But when the weather cold like it is in a lot of parts of the country, it often takes 4 or 5 weeks when the weather breaks and it starts looking good before you see more consistent numbers. And there's also a disparity. The top of the league and the bottom of the league, there's a big difference. So a really good team might be playing really bad team, and you'll see runs being scored. Because the reason really bad teams are really bad teams is probably pitching more than anything. And if you get to a bullpen, you can do damage because the bad teams don't have good bullpens. The bad teams don't have good starters. But so my first thing would be weather, most likely, and then behind that, it is a disparity. And when a good team plays a bad team, you can see crooked numbers.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up the weather because Mr. Scott was on last week,
Yeah,
and he was talking about going to see the Dodgers. And I think the temperature in Minnesota was like 34 degrees last.
right.
So
Yeah,
when you talk about weather and not just the weather, but a small market uh, also. I mean, once again, you know, are the Dodgers coming back to see it to Minnesota when it's August?
right, right.
And the weather's
This is the
so.
schedule makers. You got to get games in April. You got to play some games in Boston and Detroit and Minnesota. Somebody's got to go up there, right? But I know the Dodgers like, really? Why couldn't we go to Minnesota in July?
Yeah, yeah, but and then if in many parts of the country, like here, of course, that Monday.
Yeah.
it might have been 80 degrees.
Right. Yep.
And then, you come Friday, like I said, it's 34, 49. It's like,
Right.
so
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think the Midwest is starting to get some good weather. A couple of cities saw some good weather this week, so you might see some better games over the weekend. But yeah.
uh well, I re-emailed some of the guys,
Mhm.
not sure about the link, but the USFL is here.
Yep.
We've had games last week. Even Pittsburgh, we've got the Pittsburgh Maulers. I mean,
Maulers. Yeah.
hey, if you throw a football up in the air in Pittsburgh, somebody's going to come to play.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
we were talking about pick up baseball. Last week. But unlike pick up baseball, you can find some pick up football games now.
You can. You
You
can. Yep.
so. But the USFL is here, and I got to be honest. It, it it still seems like college football. It's played on Saturday. I mean,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and I, I'm not. Look, uh, some of these players I haven't even heard of in the
I
draft.
love it. Yep. Yep.
I mean, and I look, like Don says, if it's there, people are going to watch.
Yeah.
We had 3 million people watch,
Yep.
but I mean, really, 3 million. I mean, come on, I mean,
It's nothing. Right.
we probably had more than that watch the
Soccer.
play-in game.
Yeah. The playing game. Right. Exactly.
you, you know,
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't even go talk about soccer because not only do I not know a damn thing about it, but I know
Right.
that it is, whether or not we want to admit it or not, th- football, American football is not the number one sport in the world.
It's not.
But
It is not. It's okay. But it
you
is in the United States.
yes,
So
it is. And
yeah.
that's why we had the sports crib. But this is not a soccer show.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
anyway, and we also talked about some of the innovations. Like
Mhm.
the chip in the football, for instance, not having the chains, and uh, some of the was the 3 point conversion play.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on it? I mean, some of it seems kind of gimmicky, and some of it seems like it might be able to transition, like
Yeah.
the chip in the ball and not having to measure for the first down. I mean, what's your thoughts on this
Yeah.
new game in town?
So historically, I've always been the guy in the corner who says, "Whatever, whatever." Why would there's? It's the NFL and nothing else. That's it. Don't try. Don't even try. But this has changed my tune because what has happened in the past always the original USFL had it right the first two seasons. And then they let this clown by the New Jersey Generals, who one day a bunch of people elected president. And he came in and he screwed up the league, right? He bullied these guys as he tends to do. And this is not the Monday show, so I'm not going to go off on that dude. But he bullied these other owners into believing they should try and compete with the NFL. That was a gross mistake, right? Here's the deal. This league has the best shot of any league I've seen because they understand one very undeniable fact. We are not and we never will be a competitor of the NFL. We will not. We're just offering an alternative. 10 weeks of spring football to get you through, right? So what do? They smartly developed a business model that can cut down on their costs. All the games are in Birmingham. There's no travel. Forget all that travel. Everybody plays in Birmingham, right? So now you have an opportunity. This is a TV league. This league isn't about regions. There's a team called the Michigan Panthers. I watch their game because I'm a sucker like that and I'm going to watch more of their games. And if the Michigan Panthers win the championship in this version of the USFL, like they did back in 1983 in the original version, your boy's coming on the sports crib with a Michigan Panthers t-shirt on. There's no doubt about it. So it works in that way. They're doing some smart, innovative things that are making the game a little more exciting. But the biggest thing they're doing is they're not trying to trick anybody into thinking they are on the level or anywhere near the level of the NFL. That's the way this can work. It is essentially a TV only league. It's 10 teams. They've got a really smart setup. 5 North, 5 South, solid divisions. Play everybody in division twice, and the other teams once, and you've got yourself a nice, solid little football league. It will never be anything more than slightly above college football. It won't have the appeal of college football because that has the regionalism. This is trying to use that same philosophy because, like I said, I will watch Michigan Panther games. I'm going to come on the Sports Crib with a Michigan Panther T-shirt on one day. I can guarantee you that. But this league can stay viable because of the motto. It will never be because of the quality of football. There will be a small group of people who say, "I like football. Any football, give me football." And they will eventually settle into, okay, this is not the NFL, so their expectations won't be high. What happens is the mainstream media wants to talk about it like it is a pro football league. There is only one pro football league. Sorry. So as long as you level set your expectations and say, I don't expect this to be competitive, you can get dudes like me to tune into the Michigan Panther games. And unless the football is just god awful, if it's even remotely competitive, and then you do a smart regional thing by have the Michigan Panthers have a bunch of Michigan State guys, right, from the area. That gives me a rooting interest. You got 4 or 5 Spartans on that squad. I'll check it out, right? Eventually, the way it really works is if they link up and become a farm system with the NFL. If 2 or 3 teams each get one of these USFL teams that they get to pull players off their roster, send players down to, that can maybe work. But I don't even know if the NFL wants that. But I think it can work if it stays a TV league, if they manage the expenses, keep using the business model intelligently by not traveling and doing stuff like that. The innovations will be cute. Some people will like them. At the end of the day, it's the NFL and very little else. College, but that's a different space. There's no room for you and me. Like you have something behind you, and you have a shirt on, and I have something behind me and have a shirt on. Right? Where there's not a lot of room for you and I to embrace some other league. Like I said, I will that sign will always be over my right shoulder. That pillow will always be over your right shoulder or left shoulder. I can't tell, right? Your shirt, I know what your shirt says, even though I can't see it. Right? You know what's on the right. You know what's on mine, right?
And,
Exactly. So
and right now it does not say Maulers underneath. I'm
exactly, it
sorry.
doesn't.
you
Now,
know.
if the Michigan Panthers win the USFL title, like I said, I'll wear a Michigan Panthers shirt on the sports crib. Sure. I'm that kind of dude, even though they're playing every game in Birmingham and I won't get to see them in person. I think it's a smart business model. It's got a chance to be entertaining. People have to just level set. It's not NFL football, and it never will be. So I'm always for it. I think this is the smartest business model anybody's ever tried to do a spring football league with. This one has the best chance to work.
Yeah, and as I said, it doesn't interfere. It's an alternative,
Right.
and it's kind of it's presented as an alternative. It's not trying to compete.
Right.
Uh, I'm not really sure about the kind of minor league approach. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there are other guys, that will get noticed and get tries.
Yeah.
We had a couple guys from the last
Yep.
try,
Yep.
get some play here. So,
Yeah.
like I said, if you put a football in there, certain people will
Sure.
watch.
Yeah.
And hey, on the playground, if 2 guys start throwing the football, one car will stop. One guy will, hey, babe, can you hold the dog?
I
I
know,
mean,
right? All of a sudden, somebody want to run an
yeah,
out route. I gotta run
yeah,
this run out
yeah,
route.
yeah. Here's the 75-year-old guy like me. Hey, I can
Yep.
throw that ball, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly. Because you
you
never
know,
forget what that felt like.
right,
You know,
right.
your shoulder muscles forgot what it felt like, but you remember what it was like to fire that spiral.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
but I do want to kind of get back to baseball here. Did you watch the slide by Louvoy?
Oh yeah. So I'll let you tell me how you feel about it first. I don't
Okay,
want to be that dude.
okay. Uh, I'm gonna be you.
Love it.
I'm gonna live up to the character of the old man.
Yes,
You
sir.
know,
Yes,
out
sir.
on
Black socks, standing on the porch,
you
yelling at
know,
kids, "Get off
right,
my grass." Yep.
right, the shorts,
Yep.
the wife beater,
Exactly. That's the
the
deal.
whole 9 yards. Okay, now God rest his soul. Does anybody remember a guy named Roy Campanella?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes,
do
sir.
you do you remember some of the collisions that were at the Brooklyn Dodgers
Yeah.
Stadium?
Yeah.
I mean, and this was before WWE and WWF and
Right.
all that. You know, the leather
Right? Was it
leather gloves.
was it
The
was it the
bats.
71 All Star game when Ray Fosse got his career ended by Pete Rose
Yep.
in an All Star game?
I believe that game was played in downtown Detroit, Michigan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
right. So, I, this is why they give you all that shit to get behind
Yeah.
the plate.
Yeah.
Not only do you, I mean, and back in my day, hey, if you had a guy that was throwing 80, 88, 89 miles an hour, that was a hell of a thing. You
Mhm.
know, nowadays, over 100, you got to get to at least 90 or above to even probably get, a tryout. But the point being, you're playing catcher.
Yep.
You're not playing in the outfield.
Yep.
You're not playing on the base path. And as bad as it looked, he did nothing
Right.
illegal.
Right. And so, yeah, I think it's important here to make a distinction. Was it intentional and was it dirty? Yes, it was intentional, but at the risk of sounding like that old school baseball purist, black socks, wife beater, standing on the porch, this is part of baseball. It's a part that some people don't like or understand, like unwritten rules. And there's a whole lot of crap about baseball. It's a
But
part
wait
of
a
the
minute.
game.
But wait a minute. If I'm coming home,
Mhm.
part of my strategy
Yep.
is to make sure that catcher drops that baseball,
Yep. Yep.
be
That's
it
what I'm saying.
through
It's
fear,
part of
be
the
it
game.
through
Yep.
intimidation.
Absolutely.
My job, just like his job is to protect that plate,
Yep.
my job is to try to score.
Yep. Yep. And dislodging the baseball from him is a legal part of the game that you get to do. Now, uh,
And
Rio,
he held on to the
he held
ball.
on the ball. He's still out, right? Yeah. Yeah.
It's. I mean, maybe if the ball had went one way and he had went but
Yeah.
he played his position.
Yeah.
He held on to the ball.
Yep. Yep. That is just a baseball play. That's just a baseball play to me. I think it is. He got some indication that the ball was going to beat him there. And you're right. He made a decision that I'm not going to beat this tag. So I've got to dislodge the ball. And there's a baseball play that's allowed in the rules. It's been allowed in the rules for years that the runner gets to make contact with the catcher in an effort to dislodge the ball. Because if he dislodges the ball, that run scores. And if you tell me he's just doing something to try to hurt the other guy, I would say to you, no, he's trying to score a run, which is literally his job to help his team win baseball games. That's just a baseball play. It's unfortunate when somebody gets hurt, but when two guys collide in the outfield, when a guy slides into the second baseman and doesn't even try to get the base, he's trying to break up a double play. That's his job. If my spikes happen to catch your ankle, that's unfortunate. But if you don't get the double play, I've done my job. And there are elements of the game of baseball that are like that some people don't like, don't enjoy. That's a legal play. It's actually a smart play, but it's a violent play. It's one of the few violent plays in baseball. So people always get outraged when they see it because he literally tried to dislodge the ball. He hit him, right?
Yeah,
But I don't think there's no fine coming. There's no suspension coming. That's a play in baseball. It's what it
yeah,
is.
yeah. Now,
Yep.
if you got your feelings hurt and you want to settle it in the gym or wherever, that's between you and him. That's
Yeah.
fine. You
Yeah.
know
Now,
that.
no, or make no mistake, tomorrow that dude's getting beamed. The other team's pitcher is hitting him square in the ass with a baseball. And but again, that's how it works. That's the game. He's going to take that ball and he's going to walk over to first base, and that's it. But that guy's pitcher tomorrow has got to make a statement. So he's getting beat. But it's not dirty. There's no suspension. There's none of that. That is a baseball play. It's been a baseball play for probably 100 years.
More than that.
Yeah, right. It's a violent play, and some people are uncomfortable with it, but that's the wussification of our society where we can't stand anything slightly violent anymore.
It's just like when you were talking about the double play. If you don't get down and you get hit in the face with a baseball,
exactly.
Was the second baseman dirty for trying to complete the dirty play?
Nope.
The
but if you don't get down and try and get your spikes into that dude's ankles, when you get back to your own dugout, you're getting the business.
Yep.
That's your job. You're on first base. It's your job to break up a double play. That's baseball. And the second baseman isn't mad. Other managers, it's always people outside of baseball who don't understand baseball plays. They're not all pretty. Sometimes baseball can look beautiful. That's a baseball play, just like the play at the plate. And it's people outside of baseball, some announcer on some show, some writer for the New York Post or some some crap like that, talking about it being dirty. That's a base. And if you're not a fan of baseball, you haven't played baseball, you might not get that. I think people who have played the game, people who really love the game, you're not bothered by what that kid did. It's unfortunate the guy got a concussion or he might be hurt. But that, like you said, they gave that dude a whole bunch of equipment for that very reason. Right? Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead, Bill.
Even at 9 or 10 years old, now obviously this is back many years ago, but even at 9 or 10 years old, there was an expectation, and I did play second base, right? There was an expectation that if it's close, or even if it's not super close, but if it's somewhat, players who play hard are going to come in and try to, as you said, even at 9, 10 years old, I knew how to get that ball off with both feet off the ground, right? I mean, that's one of the first things you learn at second base is that I didn't have a really strong arm, but a quick release, and I was, nimble and scared. And so
that's a great combination for motivate, nimble and scared.
I put those two things together to avoid getting steamrolled or rolled up on or spiked or a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah.
But if somebody did, undercut me and I got knocked out, it's like good play on. I wasn't mad at anybody. I wasn't bothered by it. I mean, plus I had sort of a football mentality anyway. I enjoyed that part of it. I wish there was more of that in baseball. I frankly got bored a little bit when I got hit. But when I see a play like the Voit play, two things come to mind. One, I mean, Voigt's a big dude.
He is a big dude. Yes,
he's a big dude. He once again, when I first saw him, it's like they're making baseball players differently now, right?
They are.
Because guys that look like that didn't used to play this game.
Right. Apparently, linebackers play baseball now.
Right.
I mean, they play golf. Why not? Why not baseball? I mean,
Right. So that's the first thing I noticed when I thought about this play is that there's more 245-pound dudes playing this game than ever before. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I looked at the Yankees roster, not this year, but last year, and I was shocked by how many dudes were 240 plus on their roster. They literally looked like a good solid like FCS defensive line group or like defensive line and linebacker group. They had 3 guys over 245, 2 guys over 260, right? Aaron Judge is what, 270 or 262 or something like that. I mean, these guys are big. And so there's bigger athletes playing baseball than ever before in the history of the game. Yeah. I mean, Willie McCovey, people would stand on and stare at Willie McCovey. Oh my God, he's 6'5".
Right.
Like people would stand around amazed. Like, how is it possible to play baseball at 6'5"? And now there's Willie McCoveys on every team.
Exactly. There's a roster of McCoveys, yeah.
Right. Giancarlo Stanton is 260 pounds. I mean, there are some big dudes playing this game now. So that's part of it. And yes.
I mean, going back in history, do you remember when Babe Ruth was the biggest guy on the Yankees?
Right.
And he was the pitcher.
Yeah.
Right, and Babe even at his heaviest was low 230s.
Right. I was gonna say he was nothing.
Oh no, he was
Stanton and Judge would look down at him and say, "Who are you again?"
I mean, there just weren't guys playing until very recently who looked like Stanton. We used to think that like Dave Winfield was an amazing freak, right? And he was like 228. Yeah, and we were like, oh my God, look at
Barry Bonds. Look at how much I talk about Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds probably couldn't carry some of these guys' equipment bag.
I remember as a kid, to Bill's point, thinking Dave Winfield is a huge human being. I remember thinking, wow, look how big Dave Winfield. Now, he's a little guy. What's your name?
The game has really changed. I remember the first time it really hit me when I was looking at True Tulowitzki, and I was like, that's a shortstop, right? I mean, right? Like some of this is what guys like A-Rod did. Like A-Rod was a guy who could have played 3 different sports in college, right? Yeah. Very good high school quarterback, pretty good high school basketball player, and of course, the best high school baseball player in the state of Florida, which is saying something,
right?
Because they play a little bit of baseball in Florida. So. And he was coming in when he entered the league at 6'3.5" and 198 pounds and didn't get smaller.
Right.
So
exactly.
Right. And then you had, and of course, the sort of his uncle or godfather or whatever, or of course, is Cal Ripken Jr. There was every year the story was, is this the year they moved Cal Ripken to third base? Remember that? Every year, like from about his 3rd or 4th year in the league, it seemed like, this is the year they moved him. Look how big look how big he is. And of course,
but remember, like especially back in my day, and probably when you and Demetrius were even playing organized sports, usually
to be able to play baseball.
Well, the shortstop was usually the smallest guy on the team.
Oh, I mean,
he was the smallest, but he was usually the quickest.
Ozzie Smith was 154 pounds, man.
Yeah,
right.
And was later bulked up to about 160.
Right, he bulked up to 160. But also, you didn't expect power production from that position, and then all that changed. Right, all that changed.
Right.
We just signed Javi Baez to $140 million.
Cookie Rojas, we hardly knew ye. Right. I mean, the game has very much changed. I remember when Dave Concepcion was considered a hard-hitting, right? Remember that? When Dave Concepcion was a hard-hitting shortstop because he could get you, maybe 12 to 15 home runs.
15 home runs, right. On that Reds team. Yeah, exactly.
Look at him, man. He might get double-digit homers.
Giant. What a giant.
And we talked a little bit about Cabrera, and of course, as you said, they walked him today, so he didn't get a chance. But has
there been a quieter, great player? Like, you know what I mean? I mean, Andres Galarraga, sorta, kinda, but he had a little more outgoing personality. But looking back at his career numbers, like, we kind of slept on Andres Galarraga. And of course, Larry Walker, I guess, sort of is in that same category. I look at his career numbers and then Todd Helton. Man, Todd Helton was amazing. Why don't we talk about Todd Helton more? Wow, he's an absolute killing machine. Look at these numbers. But yes, the career of I don't know if part of it's because don't get this the wrong way, but part of
it's true. Detroit. Plays for Detroit, right?
Right. Okay.
So I know that. Yeah, I'm familiar with that. Right.
Okay. That's part of it. It's like in the old days playing for Seattle Seahawks. You could be the best player in the league. We play for the Seahawks. Right. People might not know who you were.
Right. I've made that speech about Steve Largent 1,000 times. People do not understand how good Steve Largent was because of where he played. And
I'll top you one better. I mean, at least he's in the Hall of Fame. I'll give you Jacob Green. Yeah. Jacob Green played defensive tackle and 5 technique D-end. And if you add the 2 years before they made sacks an official statistic, he had 112.5 sacks, mostly facing double teams. And nobody seems to know he existed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, James, sorry, I don't want to derail it. One last thing. 7 players in the history of baseball have done what he's about to do.
Yep.
500 home runs, 3,000 hits. That is what?
Herman Hank Aaron is one of those guys. Of course, Babe Ruth is one of those guys. But it's all great players. I mean, the greatest of the greats. Ted, the Thumper, kid, the Splendid Splinter. Musial's 475. He didn't make the list. That's right.
Nope.
Right. I just remember Musial came up 475. The War kept Musial from getting it on the list.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, what kind of numbers would Ted Williams have without going to 2 wars? Jeez.
Guys, I'm going to.
I'm sorry, James. We're talking baseball.
Yeah, and this
We're
is
not done. We're not done.
This is one of the reasons why I'm kind of cutting you off, because I'm going to do something that I have probably never done in the history of the Sports Crib Network.
Are we going to talk about the Kardashians?
We're not.
No.
We are not.
I am actually going to make an apology to the citizens of the mistake on the lake.
Well, here it comes. Okay.
He doesn't mean it. He doesn't mean it. This is set up. He's about to drop a bomb on them.
No. I mistakenly did not acknowledge that they had changed their name from the Indians to the Guardians. So for that, I do apologize to all those people that lived in this title-deprived city.
Told you. I knew that wasn't going to go well.
My apologies to the city of the mistake on the lake. Of course, I do not understand the Guardians either. I mean, what are you guarding?
I can explain it if you want me to.
Okay, what?
When you come into the city, when you come into the city, there are these pillars, these two stone pillars, and it's supposed to be they're guarding the city. They're called the Guardians. They're these 2 stone pillars on a bridge going into. I lived in a Mistake by the Lake for like 8 years. Yeah. So I'm familiar with that city. But that's what it is. It's these 2 stone pillars.
There are.
Hey, see, you're educating me. I live 68 miles from that Mistake, and I never even knew that. Yeah. I have family that lives there now. Yep. But I mean, maybe they should have been asbestos in the river wouldn't have caught on fire back here. But
I knew anyway. This all started with I want to apologize. It started with I want to apologize and then went off. Okay. Well done, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. You can talk about history now.
It's not that. No, it's not that big a history to me. My home for me is Michigan always, but I did live there for a while, and I became familiar with the Guardians. These 2, I want to call them gargoyles. That might not be what they actually are. Though.
Yes, right. That would have been a cool team name.
That would have been an awesome name, right?
Actually, yes, I would have bought a Cleveland Gargoyles shirt.
That's awesome.
Oh man. Okay, guys, and now once again, I'm gonna bring out the old man uniform here. I mean, okay, now I've been through the knuckleball, the spitter, the slider,
the slur.
I'm listening, and the announcer all of a sudden talks about, and he throws a sweep. What the hell is a sweep? Is it a broom? I have no idea. Maybe one of you guys that are familiar with the mechanics.
So there's more than one kind of curveball, James. Okay. And I'll let Demetrius. I'll just set him up and then let him hit out of the park. So a lot of us, when we think about the curveball, there's like the yellow hammer, the yacker, right? The Uncle Charlie.
Boom.
Right. That 12-6. The one that makes you look terrible.
Drops off the table and you look like you've never swung a bat in your life.
Right. You look like a non-athlete. Maybe you should never. Maybe if you either have never played or never should have played.
Yeah.
But that's not most people's curveball. I mean, like that's the curveball. That's the
That's the one. But the regular one is the one that made me go play football. But I understand what you're talking about. Go ahead.
Right. I mean that like knee plus ultra. Like I mean, when I think about like that ridiculous curveball that when I saw 19-year-old Dwight Gooden pitching for the Tidewater Tides, he only had 7 starts. Only needed 7. Probably didn't need 7. In the AAA level, and he was, I mean, he was just clowning people. These were good baseball players. I'm not trying to denigrate them in any way, but they literally looked like lost and afraid. It was felt for them, right? It's like, oh
Right.
man, oh that's rough. Ooh, hope your wife isn't watching, that kind of thing.
Right.
And then most people's curve, the curve that I tried to throw, right? When I tried to throw a curve, it was more like what was being described. And I'll let Demetrius take it away.
Yeah. So I'll get to the sweeper in a second. The what you're talking about is movement of a pitch. As a batter, what you want to do is think about like three things. And I can tell you, I knew I wasn't going to play professional baseball the first time I saw a 12-6, right? What Bill called a yellow hammer. When it left his hand, all the instincts I had in me said, this is up and in. I thought about backing out. And when it left his hand, I'm like, this is up and in. When it crossed the plate, it was low and away. So you're talking about planes of motion. And the yellow hammer and the 12-6 is really about there's movement left to right. That's based on arm slot, and height of the pitcher. You can predict that. You can predictive analysis say how a pitch is going to move. But if it starts high and then it gets to you and it's off the table, you can't figure out multiple planes at once. You can't. I mean, unless you're great. Unless you're like the sweeper is even worse because a curveball is slower. So you see the motion. You can eventually time a curveball if it's in the strike zone. This sweeper, it breaks so hard, right? It breaks so hard. So a slider is just gone. Boom, it's coming in, looks like a fastball. Gone. And you're just like, sweeper will start in and end up out of the strike zone. And it's hard. Corey Kluber is the guy you want to watch. There's a YouTube video of Corey Kluber. You go look at it. You're going to watch it 2 or 3 times because you're going to wait, is that a video trick? The ball moves on multiple planes and it's faster than a curveball. A curveball moves on multiple planes, but it's slower. It's 78, 80, 82. You might catch up with it. You're more likely going to be way out in front of it, right? Right? Because it's slow. This thing moves literally in, out, up, down, and it's 92. I'm sorry. I quit. I'm going home.
See, guys, I learned how to pitch throwing dirt balls. Okay. And, quite naturally, between gravity and however heavy that dirt ball was,
right,
you started it out a little bit above the head.
Yep.
And either he would catch up to it, or if he didn't, you're going to hit him somewhere between the throat and the navel. Okay.
That's great. That is great.
So, and like I said, this was the reason why I didn't play baseball, because there were a couple of times when a guy would throw that pitch and I would swear to God that he was throwing directly at me.
Right.
And I'm ready to throw the bat down and go out and attack the mound, and all of a sudden, like you say, it's crossing the plate over here. And,
right, exactly.
And, like, damn, what?
Right. And that's why, like, a lot of people say hitting the baseball is the hardest thing to do in the world. It's not just hitting it, right? If a guy is grooving you fastballs and you have decent hand-eye, you can eventually hit a fastball. Mm-hmm. If a guy's just rare back throwing 102, I think you just say your prayer, shake that guy's hand, and go eat some Wheaties, right? The problem is, much of hitting a baseball as a batter is predictive analysis. I know this pitcher. I know which pitches he throws. If he throws 4 of them, I know which ones he can throw for strikes and which ones he doesn't. I know which ones he likes to throw when it's 3-2 versus 0-2. Some of it is work before the game starts. And really, the count, if it's 2-0, it's just simple statistical analysis. He doesn't want to go 3-0 because statistically, he's not going to throw me 3 straight strikes. 3-0 is almost certainly a walk. That's why guys just take 3-0 pitches, right? Because you got to make him prove he can throw a strike. But if he's got a pitch that you just can't touch, and this sweeper is a game changer. Not everybody can throw it, by the way. Nope. This sweeper is a deal where you just take it. You nod to the guy, and you go back to the dugout. I don't care how good you are. You're not hitting that pitch. Can you get lucky? Of course. If you hit that pitch, it's not statistical analysis. It's not your hand-eye coordination. It is luck. It is a blessing from the Almighty that you got your bat on that pitch. And if you got a base hit off that pitch, yeah, you've been doing good deeds. Because you can. It's just, but everybody can't throw it. And what you really have to do is, my strategy would be, you're going to have to throw 3 of them. Because I'm sitting on a fastball anyway. If you can throw 3 of them over the plate, you can strike me out. I'll wave to you. We can talk later. But there are a lot of guys who can get that over 3 times. That's why it's so. But Corey Kluber's the guy you want to look at. If you want to figure out what is this sweeper, what is it? Corey Kluber. Google Corey Kluber sweeper. There's all kinds of videos about it. It is filthy. It's ridiculous.
But then again, see, just like that slider or that knuckleball, you don't always have to get it over the plate.
Because most guys are going to just react, and it's going to look like a slider in the strike zone coming out of your hand. When you see the rotation of the ball coming out of the pitcher's hand, and you know where his arm slot is, very quick math, but really good hitters can do it. That's going to be low and away, but I can get to it because of my swing. Or that's going to be in the zone. I can swing at this. And then this thing takes off like a rocket, like across the plate and is two inches outside the strike zone. And you're like, what the hell just happened? It really is a tremendous pitch. It's hell on the arm though. I've never tried to throw one, but I know in Michigan, they didn't allow 15. I want to say until you were 15, you couldn't throw that pitch. You couldn't throw 12-6 curves or anything like that because of what it does to your elbow.
The ulnar collateral ligament.
The ulnar collateral ligament. Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to get too geeky, but Bill did it, so why not? To this day now, this sounds weird. Guys are getting Tommy John proactively.
Right. Preventative Tommy John.
They just get the Tommy John and get it over with.
I'm going to give you something anyway.
I was going to ask you guys about that because this is a surgery where, once again, changing the guard, changing the times. Tommy John surgery was something that it was an injury. Yeah. You had to be injured in order to get Tommy John surgery.
Nope.
Now, like you said, I think.
And Tommy John, we call it Tommy John because he was the first one to actually come back. Like,
right.
Usually when your UCL went, it was like, well, guys, it's been great. I'm going to go and sell insurance now.
Or go coach high school, right?
Right, or coach high school, right.
But then, like you said, I think the first time I heard of this was about 18, 20 years ago, and I might even be late then, when you had a young pitching prospect that was opting to have Tommy John surgery before he was drafted.
Yep. Get that shit out of the way. We know it's coming. If you throw certain pitches, it is a virtual certainty you're eventually going to have that procedure.
Right.
I find it remarkable, but it also makes sense because the arm is not meant to do that.
No.
The arm is not designed to do what those pitches do.
Oh,
and there's only so many curveballs in a human arm. So you might as well get the procedure, tie that thing up, and let's
go. Bill, another thing that we kind of lightly talked about before you came on the air was the USFL, and
I want Bill's thoughts on this.
The games, I know you and Mike diehard guys. I mean, you probably have a scouting report on every guy in the USFL also.
It was fun because there was a lot. It was like Will was really a trip down memory lane. Oh yeah, yes. I've got my scouting report on you. Here's the good news.
Well, wait a minute. Now, I want to kind of set you up here because as Demetrius was talking about, this is all in Birmingham. Mm-hmm. One big. It's one big hotel. Everybody has their own little section, and
right. It's like the bubble season for the NBA. Yes, correct.
Exactly. Right. And Bill, not being the purist that you are, I still feel like this is post-college football. It's played on Saturday. I mean,
I actually don't disagree with you. I mean, there's. Their market they're going for is sort of a collegiate market to some extent. Anyway, that's one reason they're doing it all in Birmingham, Alabama, where there's no NFL franchise, obviously. Exactly. And they all love college football.
Exactly.
I mean, I'll have to check the actual state laws of Alabama, but I believe you are required by law to love college football if you plan to stay in the state of Alabama.
If you want a driver's license, you
Right.
got to put your team on the driver's license.
I mean, I'm saying it somewhat to be funny, but I'm still waiting to meet someone from Alabama who didn't want to talk college football.
You're not necessarily wrong. Just because you're telling a joke doesn't mean it's not true.
Right. I mean, I'm really thinking. I've known a decent number of people from Alabama, and every single one of them wanted to talk college football. Men, women, children, even a few pets. So my assumption is that this is not an accident. Oh, they didn't just spin a wheel and it landed on Birmingham, Alabama. This was something they did by design, James. So what you said isn't so much wrong. And some of these guys were really good players. I mean, some of these guys, deal with something in the league, but it's a numbers game. There's, last I checked, 32 teams in the league. That hasn't changed. And you only have 53 guys on a roster, and you only, activate, 46 of those guys. So, practice squad got expanded a little bit, but it's still close to. It's not like you've got 100 guys, right? It's not college. So there's going to be guys who are good enough to play professionally, and some of those guys going to play in the NFL even, but there's no room for them right now in the NFL. Yeah. They have to wait for someone to get hurt, or something, or sometimes guys will end up, demanding a trade or whatever it is, and then now a spot opens up. Especially backup quarterbacks, right? There's a handful of teams that really like their backup quarterbacks. And when I say a handful, I mean literally a handful. and then beyond those handful of teams, everybody else is like, ooh, yeah, if we come up with a better option, we're getting that better option. And the good news is, unless you're one of those handful of teams, your backup quarterback usually is on a deal where if you decided to cut him tomorrow, it doesn't hurt you much on the cap. So if the USFL is a success, one of the things it will do is it will help to groom and develop backup quarterbacks, which is one of the hardest things to do because, once again, to tell you something you already know, most NFL teams give very few reps to their backup, right? You give probably 80%, sometimes more, of your reps to your starter, and then your backup gets and then a few, and then if you have a third string quarterback, he gets to watch. Right, he gets to watch what they call mental reps. They say that to make themselves feel better because I'm getting mental reps too, if that's what you're going by, because I'm watching too. I mean, that's
right. I got a bunch of mental reps last year.
So, I mean, it's a term they use, like I said, so it doesn't sound like what he's doing, which is watching. So, if you're
but he is getting paid though.
Oh, right. It's a nice lifestyle, but you're not getting developed. I mean, God forbid they have to play you, right? Because hopefully you go home and you've got an understanding why you can run routes. You know what I'm saying? Like I've known some third string quarterbacks, right? And they've got some funny stories to tell about like what they got to try to do to stay sharp. Because, I mean, they'll flat out tell you sometimes, I'd really like to get you that. We got to beat the Patriots, right? But there's no time, right? I can't spend time on you. So that's the main thing. I think that if they start helping the pipeline of better backup quarterbacks in the NFL, that'll be a success. Some of those guys are going to be back in the NFL soon. A good number of the players in the league have been in the NFL before. And a few of them who haven't ever been in the NFL will get spotted and make their way to the NFL. Yeah. The USFL's best case scenario is to eventually have the NFL say, okay, I know we said we don't need a developmental league, but we realize finally 103 years into this exercise, maybe we do.
Yep. That's it. I mentioned that earlier, and Bill just reminded me of something really good that I missed earlier. So I need to make two quick points. One's a funny story based on what Bill said, which is the Lions' current third string quarterback is a kid named David Blau.
I know exactly.
His wife was in the Olympics. She's a hurdler, so she could probably run routes in the backyard for Brian. Right? And so I think Bill's point about the USFL's ultimate best case scenario, I think that guys get better organically to juxtapose the third string quarterback on an NFL team to say, because the USFL is doing a regional thing. The Michigan Panthers have a lot of Michigan Wolverines and Michigan State Spartans on their roster, right? One guy in particular, his name is Shea Patterson. I think Shea Patterson will eventually be a backup in the NFL. Why? Because he's gonna get reps in this league, and he's gonna get better because he's playing. And the way you get better is you play. And if you sit down with me a year from now, 2 years from now, and say Shea Patterson is not as good as David Blau, and I'm not even mad at David Blau. If David Blau is playing, it doesn't even matter, right? It doesn't matter, right? So, but that's a path for those guys to get back into the league. To Bill's point. But it's funny that Bill mentioned that thing about, I hope your wife can run routes, because I think David Blau's wife can run routes. She's an Olympic. I think she might have won a gold medal in some sprinting event, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say 110 hurdles or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, she could probably run routes.
There's somebody else's wife that's an Olympian. I think she plays volleyball. What's
Zach Ertz
is married too.
Soccer.
Yeah, Ertz. Is
she's a soccer player, right?
Right.
She's soccer. Yeah, Zach Ertz's wife is
right. As Zach Ertz has often said, I'm not the best athlete in the house.
And I agree with Zach. I agree with Zach on that. I think he's right.
Mr. Scott, how are you doing this evening?
Mr. Scott, there he is.
Greetings. My cell phone, my phone. Everybody's talking about this Timberwolves game. My cousin in Atlanta.
Oh man.
Settle down. Everybody, let me handle this. Just let me handle it.
Well, you
can't take it. Just let me handle it.
Did you calm him down? Did you calm everybody down?
I thought Demetrius was even on the line. That's what everybody was calm. Yeah, just let me handle it.
Well, we're going to get to that in a minute, especially as these last 2 minutes and 39 seconds run down. But, Mr. Scott, what did you think about the USFL? We've had a weekend now and Monday Night Football. To me, I was saying it feels, more like a college type of thing. I haven't really embraced it yet. What about you?
Well, I guess, one of the rare times, whatever, I agree with James King III. I mean, it's like minor league. It's like, it's like a filler for the spring, summer, for people that really are football guys, that really love the sport. I watched a little bit of it. There was a few good things that I saw, but it's kind of filler for me. I think I agree. It's kind of like minor league, and these leagues have never got off the ground. So we'll see about this one. Yeah. But the ones in the past, they were able to get some stars from the NFL. They were able to get the original USFL was actually kind of interesting because they had they were had money and were buying players. The great, Herschel Walker, Brian Sipes, that were stars at that time. So this kind of minor league. It's kind of minor league.
Are they going to give your ex-president a chance to buy a team?
Yeah, he ruined it the first time. They're not. Don't call him Mr. Scott's ex-president. Hang up. We're gonna lose Mr. Scott. You doing
nonsense like that. Yeah, that's what my grandmother used to say. You just agitate.
That was agitation. If that league had stayed in spring, they'd still be around right now. I think if that league had just committed to spring ball and stopped trying to compete with the NFL, they'd still be around to this day.
Yeah, they came out with a bang. They really did. They came out with a bang.
Mr. Scott, you've watched baseball for quite some time. What do you think about this new pitch called the sweeper?
The sweeper? I don't. Maybe I've missed something on that. What is it? A super fastball? Is it what? All these things. All these things, like in basketball, the four corners. This
is a baseball pitch. It's called the sweeper. The
triangle and all these things. Are just,
Mr. Scott's coming in, going off on everything and everybody. It's just a hard-breaking slider. It's a slider with a lot of movement. It's a hard curveball. That's what it is.
I'm waiting for somebody to bring back a knuckleball. They don't do that no more.
That's a hard pitch to throw. It is so difficult to throw a knuckleball consistently well. We should respect those dudes who could throw knuckleballs at the major league level, because that is incredibly hard pitch.
I mean, Hoyt Wilhelm, Wilbur Wood.
Exactly.
I mean, these guys. These
Charlie
guys
Howe.
Wilbur Wood did it every time. That's all he did, throw the flutter thing up there.
Hard to hit. Too. You can't hit that thing.
Yeah.
Mr. Scott,
I might try to learn to do a knuckleball. Come back, maybe.
There you go. There you go.
Did you see that play with Voigt at home plate, the slide, Mr. Scott? Where the catcher got concussion.
Padres Reds game, collision at the plate. It was.
I mean, it's been. If you watch sports, I mean, the collision was shown. You might, and the catcher ended up with a concussion. Young rookie, I believe, wasn't it? Stephenson.
Yeah.
Young rookie. But as I saw it, it was just a hard baseball play.
It's a baseball play.
I mean, we've seen harder collisions at home plate during the Campanella era.
Pete Rose, Ray Fosse. Pete Rose.
That's the one we were talking about. Yeah.
Yep.
Ray Fosse didn't really come back after.
Nope.
That's it. That's a wrap. Never played again. Yeah. It's a part of the game.
So was it a dirty play, Mr. Scott, or was it just part of the game? What did you think?
Well, Luke Voigt, what does he weigh? About 275?
Exactly. I think it looked worse because he's a giant of a man. I think you have a great point.
I mean, the catcher had to protect himself too. I mean,
they gave all that stuff before they put him back behind the plate, didn't they? I mean,
if a 270-pound freight train is running at you, just accept your fate and say a quick prayer. Hope it all works out.
Get out the way.
I mean,
get out the
way. When Aaron Donald was bearing down on your ass, what do? Get out the way, right? But
Timberwolves is losing. Timberwolves.
It's over.
Oh.
It's over. It's over.
Let me turn this phone off. I'm not going to accept any calls.
He's just shutting everybody out.
From a 26-point, well, we'll be talking basketball in a minute, but I'm gonna stir up a little controversy here since I got both of you guys here.
Uh-oh.
There's an upcoming series between the Twins and the Tigers, isn't there?
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna play 19 times. Me and Mr. Scott got a whole summer of this. We got a whole summer of this. I got 19 games this summer.
Yeah,
I know that's Mr. Scott's phone.
That's phone. It is like a 30 seconds.
Hotline
Don't take the call. Let us listen.
It only means one thing.
Put it on speaker. Let us listen.
It only means one thing.
One thing.
All I can tell him, is it's like Muhammad Ali. It ain't bragging if you can do it. Okay, so
I think you should take that call and let us listen. Let's go to a new interesting sports crib. Take that call on speaker and let's listen.
Mr. Scott, you always talk about them 2 certain wins that you're gonna get during football season. What's your prediction for the baseball season? Demetrius just said you guys play 19 times.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. I go to games. And I think last year, oh God, this is but there was so many. I ended up seeing Kansas City maybe 6 or 7 times. I mean, we played the Detroit, Kansas City, Cleveland so many times that. But I mean, it's going to be this. The Twins this year pitching. They needed Barrios. I don't know why you get rid of an ace guy like that. You brought him up in your system. You brought him up. He showed that he can beat a guy. And then they give Korea 100 and some $1 million. And from Houston, and he admitted that he knew about the cheating. He admitted they knew all about it. I mean, so They're off to a slow start now. It's been really cold still up here. The home games have been just awful. Like I said, I wanted to see you go away, please.
So great. This is the next hour. I love it. Somebody's like, don't ignore me.
Boy. So, but no, I think the Twins we'll see. They're getting up to a slow start. The bats aren't going. Sano, they had a guy a couple years ago, good first baseman. This guy CJ Cron, and they I don't know. I think he was coming off an injury and hadn't played in a while, and they got him, and he did really well, and they just let him go, and he's burning it up in Colorado. He's doing great there. He's a good first base. He's got power. Yep. Yeah, power. I mean, but Sano is just, boy, I think he's got 1 or 2 hits so far this year. It's really looking kind of suspect. So they started slow, but their bats should get going. Gary's that trade with the Yankees, Gary Sanchez, who's marginal catcher, has some power. Urshela, the other infielder they got, he's pretty decent. But Kepler, he's another one that's starting real slow. I don't know about that. Buxton was hurt, but he's already back. So if he can really stay healthy, that would be a big thing, very big thing for them. And then this guy, Nick Gordon. Tom Gordon's one of Tom Gordon's sons. He's ready to play. He is ready to play. The only thing is he's not an outfielder. And that's kind of the only spot they have for him right now. But the Tigers look better. I mean, I think I'm a little worried about them for the first time in a while. I'm not worried about the Lions, but I mean, I'm worried about the Tigers. I'm more worried about the Tigers.
That's great.
Bill, Kyrie isn't the only one that likes to express his feelings to the fans. You got a guy, what is Anderson? He likes to kind of let the fans know how he feels too. But what about the White Sox and the Cubs? How are they looking coming out of the gate?
Well, as I mentioned before, I was sort of defending Kenny Williams. For the most part, the teardown and rebuild has gone, I would say, better than expected, or at least certainly as well. And this team should contend essentially the entire season. The Cubs are in an interesting situation because though baseball doesn't have a salary cap per se, it does have a luxury tax. And some teams, you talk about the Dodgers, before we talked about how they're like, oh, how much do you need for this salary, for this luxury tax or whatever, and they whatever the number is, they'll happily pay. But the White Sox don't have that situation. They are not a team that they'll spend some money in free agency, don't get me wrong, but they're not going to do what the Dodgers are doing. They don't want to. Could they possibly? Maybe, but they should have an inclination towards doing that kind of thing. They're a team that wants to find young players, both in the draft and sometimes in free agency, and want to invest in them long term. And they keep a lot of players, usually the right ones, not always. So I'm predicting there are going to be about a 90 to 92 win year. Could be in the cards for a team like the White Sox. And then your other question was specifically about
Mr. Anderson.
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 Anderson. Okay.
The other half of the dynamic duo that we discussed last week.
Yep. I mean, he's not even budding anymore, right? I guess he's blossomed. I guess would be the better way to describe it. I'm not looking at his numbers, but I think he's a probably top 7-ish all around at his position in between what he does offensively and defensively. I mean, once again, Demetrius would be the guy who could probably be telling him right or wrong or that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but he feels to me like somewhere between above average to very good at all the things we ask players like him to do.
Multi-tools, and he's not plateaued yet. He's still getting better.
Right, still getting better, and he could do some of everything. Good, better than above average fielder. And people don't care about stolen bases anymore, but he can.
Should.
Right. I mean, I'm a big fan of stolen bases and sort of like pressures in football.
Exactly.
Even when it doesn't happen, it creates other things. both in terms of places sometimes where a guy can hit the baseball and distracting the pitcher, changing the defensive alignment. There's so many things that really, I think some of the people who've focused on certain metrics have missed on what the hockey assist, sort of that a guy, just sort of threatening you on the base pass can have.
Yeah. When you look at the batting average of a batter when a speedy runner is on first base, and it is legitimately 50 points above his regular average usually, or some ridiculous amount. It gets in the head of the pitcher. Now they're pitching from the stretch, right? Instead of a windup, it changes a lot, and it's impactful. Anderson's a really good player.
Yep. And I'm glad to hear Darius agree, because I think he's even better at this than anybody. Well, I mean, I think he understands baseball. First of all, I played baseball a lot, but baseball is a sport that rewards you for nerding out in a way that other sports don't quite. I mean, first of all, baseball has so many numbers.
A sick amount of numbers.
Right. It's a crazy.
Which I love, by the way. As a stats geek and a guy who works in quality assurance, I love it.
What's his BACIB? Right?
Speaking of, when you speak of base running, for some reason I have to think back to and remember the great owner, one of the best owners in baseball, Mr. Charlie Finley, who brought the great speedy Herb Washington. Great Herb Washington,
sprinter,
pinch runner extraordinaire.
Exactly.
Never batted once.
Right.
Never 0.000 batting average.
It's called outside the box thinking. Yeah.
And so, and in the World Series, the captain Sal Bando said, "I don't think we should have this guy on the roster because he can't hit, he can't play in the field. I don't think we should have him." He gets on first base against the Dodgers. Gets summarily picked off by Mike Marshall.
Exactly.
But I thought it was a good. I mean, I thought it was a good. And then he actually replaced Herb Washington with another guy that was a runner, but he could also play a position.
Right.
I can't remember what his name was, but he also played a position. He was an outfielder, and he hit, and he was a baseball player. And it's like Reggie Jackson called Herb Washington. He's really fast. Right. But he's not a baseball player.
Baseball player. Yeah, so much more to that game. Reggie was right.
Demetrius, you got to explain this to me, because I came across this article and I'm looking at it, and I actually went back to read it again, because I've talked to you several times about the Pistons, and we've talked about, how they're building for the future.
Yep.
And then I hear these rumors, or I read about these rumors of Grant becoming a Laker and Russell Westbrook coming to Detroit. Now, Demetrius, tell me it ain't so.
Are we after dark? We're after dark, aren't we? All right. So since we're after dark, I'm going to go right for it. There is a term we've all heard and probably used. It's called bullshit. That is exactly what this is. This doesn't fit our rebuild. The Lakers would have to give us money, draft picks to take that contract off our. Now, think about it, James. You knew better. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the Pistons, but Russell Westbrook is a ball-dominant turnover machine. At this point in his career, that's what he is. We just took the number 1 pick in the draft. Is our point guard, is our leader. We got a kid we drafted 7 last year, also plays guard. We have ball handlers. We don't need anything that Russell Westbrook can do right now. And we don't want any of the stuff he does right now. This is a deal where Bleacher Report has a lot of content they need to fill. So what they do is simple, and I'm not even mad at them because this makes sense. The Lakers need to get rid of Russell Westbrook. The first thing they do is who's got the cap space to take him, and then they start going through those teams, and then they make up some bullshit. This is how it works. No. That's never going to happen. It's not. We're not. First of all, we can get value for Grant because Jeremy Grant's a really good player. We can get something we need, something we want for Jeremy Grant. We don't need to give him away to take back somebody else's mistake. The Lakers messed up. Bleacher Report is trying to find a way for the Lakers to fix this catastrophic mistake. It won't be in Detroit. No, thank you. I'll pass.
Uh, um, hey, Mr. Scott, y'all just blew a 27-point lead. Any chance y'all calling the West?
Mr. Scott's phone's not on. He ain't calling nobody. His phone is off right now. He ain't taking no calls. He ain't making no calls. He is incommunicado. Is that what they say?
But
We're
okay,
still
Mr. Scott.
doing better. We're still doing better than my cousin in Atlanta because they're about getting ready to just go out the door.
Yeah,
He thinks
yeah.
they're going to. Eights don't beat number one. I keep telling him the number 8 seed does not beat the number 1 seed. So.
There's a reason you're 8, and there's a reason they're 1. Right?
So
Doesn't work out that way.
So are you saying that there's that number 2s, number 7s don't beat number 2s? And there's a reason?
Well, see, that's when it starts evening out. But I mean, a 1 and 8, that's out the door. That's
okay.
they're just a tune-up. They're just a tune-up,
okay.
Right? The 8 is just a tune-up.
So a 1 and 8 is a tune-up, but a 2 and 7 is a.
Well, it's a good matchup, especially when you take the first game in their place. When you take the first game and then you blow this lead, you can regroup from this. You got the next game at home, and they need to tie it up. I mean,
I actually agree with Mr. Scott. 1 and 8 is different than 2 and 7. You start to close that gap. The number 1 team has probably been good all year, and they've been consistent. That's why they're number 1. When you drop down, the 7 team, 6 and 7 is where you start getting good teams that might have had injuries or they might have had a stretch. Yeah. The gap between 2 and 7 is not nearly as big as the gap between 1 and 8. I actually agree with you.
There is a flaw in that theory with New Orleans and Phoenix.
Phoenix. Hold on, because I want you guys to keep that same attitude that you're talking about now when we talk about the Bulls and the Bucks, because once again we have a number 7, and this is a number, a number 2. It might be a 3. It might even be a 3-6. But anyway, I want you to, Mr. Scott, what happened?
Well, boy, I watched. I don't know how you let a lead you have that big lead. You have to continue to play your game. You have to continue to just not think it's over. You have to continue to play your game. You want to slow some things down. You don't have to keep running and running. You getting that big lead, and then you have to really know how to maintain your composure and do it. You're at home. They're the team that's scrambling on the road. So I think that's a coaching. I think that's a coaching thing. I mean, lose a big lead like that.
Again, I agree with him. You give away that lead. I'm looking at the coach. Coach.
And I was also thinking, what's all this hoopla? Because Memphis had lost the game at home, regardless of how they looked in that second game. The truth is, you lost your first game at home. Yeah. And I was looking at how, the Timberwolves would respond in their first game at home, because now they had the home court advantage. But Demetrius, as you mentioned, coaching.
Yep. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Go ahead. I mean, because it had to be more than just personnel. I mean, when you're, I don't care. I mean, we talk about professionalism. We talk about the difference in levels of sports. When your team gets down double digits, almost 30 points, there has to be. I mean, those cheerleaders out there aren't because they go to the same school. We don't have the same, type of connection. We're paid sports figures here. You have to be able to coach through that type of adversity. It's much like taking your troops into battle, and you got a platoon and they got a division.
Yep. I
You
think
have
that's
to
it.
get that mindset in there.
And that's the job of the coach. I think we've all played sports. When a game is competitive, there is an intrinsic sense of intensity that everybody's bringing. If you're up 30 in a basketball game, I don't care who you are and what you say, you play differently. If you're down 30, you play differently. It is the job of the coach to say, play in 4-minute increments. Let's just win the next 4 minutes. Let's just have one good possession. Let's just defend one time. You have to change the way you coach, change the way you get those guys to think. Because if you're down 30 in a game, I don't know the human being that doesn't go, when's the next game? What time's the bus? What time's the bus? What are we having for dinner tonight? You can't, because you're human beings. That doesn't make you a bad person, but that's just a mentality. Good coaches get their team that's ahead to remember the game's not over. And you still have to play. Good coaches that are behind get their team to play in smaller increments, just win the next 2 possessions, win the next 4 minutes. That is a coaching exercise. And it's not coaching X and O's on the basketball court. It's coaching the mentality of grown men. and that's what that becomes. I think that's like 95% coaching. Coming back from a large deficit or blowing a large deficit. I almost don't. Players miss shots, and that happens. That's coaching. You got to call a timeout, stop the momentum. You got to do all. There's so many things a coach can do to change the flow of a game like that. That 100%.
He can change the matchups. He can change the matchups.
Exactly.
He can bring a guy off the bench and say, "You go in and just foul this guy. Just foul him. You just go ahead and you stop him when he goes to the basket." Right. And then if you get 3 or 4 fouls, well, we don't really. You've done. We don't care.
You need to change that guy's mindset. He's killing us all day. I need him to worry about his knees or his ankles or his headache. Right? You got 6 of these things to burn. Make them count. That's a coaching strategy, and you can change the outcome of a game, right?
Let's say go in there and foul this guy. When he gets,
you guys know who Rick Mahorn is, right? You guys know who Rick Mahorn is, right? Rick Mahorn said, he's an announcer now. He said, I don't know what a soft foul is. You can go look at the film of every one of my fouls. I only gave hard fouls. I don't care if it's the first quarter or overtime. You're going to remember my fouls. He said, I got 6 of them, and I'm making them count. That's a way you could use that guy, though.
Bill, I kind of, at the beginning, referred this, as always, to kind of a mission. You got 12 guys, going out into the unknown, and usually there's either at least a platoon-sized force or better. You have to get these guys in the right mindset to let them know that, you 12 guys are the best of the best. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter whether it's 12 or 100. I'm coming home. Sorry about them. They need body bags.
Yep. I think there's 2 things that are at work. And first of all, Demetrius did a great job, as he often does, of illuminating what you have to do. And if you've played sports, especially if you've played sports long enough, eventually you're on the wrong end of a total beatdown. And once again, if you play sports long enough, you're at some point on the right end of a total beatdown. And when you're on the right end of a total beatdown, there's a lot of like joking and smoking and, talking about people's mamas and whatever else you want to do, because you start feeling like, oh man, I'm loving this. This is fun. I'm a backup, because I can speak from my experience. I was a backup. So I always look forward to blowouts, or not looking forward to us getting blown out, but I got a chance to play, right? I was like a symbol of where we were in the game. If I was in the game, we were either killing someone or getting killed. So I'm very aware of what happens to a team mentally and sometimes physically when you're getting absolutely just, road roughshod. Because once again, I was that guy that stood very close to the D coordinator, like right in his field of vision, slightly to the side, because I wanted him to see me in case something should happen, right? When your team is just getting dominated, just flat out dominated, there's 2, as was mentioned, you can do some things. You can pull everybody over and say, hey guys, let's just talk for a minute. not even about sports. Like something going on. Like, do you want to, something you want to tell me, right? Because sometimes it's that. Maybe something's gone wrong. Maybe you guys have problems, right? But and sometimes depending on what your team is like, yeah, you can really get into them, like light into them, just like tear them a new one. Or maybe your team isn't built like that, and maybe you have to go a different way about it. Not every coach is Bobby Knight, luckily, right? There's other ways to get to your team, to get to your players, and I think that the greatest of the greatest, the best of the best, like the John Woodens, the Lombardis, those that John Thompson, those that yes, they know their sport at a very high level. They know the X's and O's at a very high level, but they know humans and psychology and motivation and what people love and why they love things and what people hate and why they hate. I'll throw Jimmy Johnson in there as well. So Jimmy Johnson, as some of you may know, came this close to never becoming a head coach. Or any kind of coach at all. He, shortly after graduation, was offered a job as an organizational psychologist, which is what he actually studied. Was going to be an organizational psychologist for it might have been it might have been actually an oil and natural gas company. I could be wrong though, but it was a company in that area where he's from that needed an organizational psychologist. And right before he went to go take this job, one of his former coaches he played for had moved on from Arkansas and had a job somewhere else and was offering him like 1/8 the money to be a quality control guy as opposed to making a halfway decent living in Houston, Texas, as working as an organizational psychologist, which like instead to be in this much less glamorous part of the country, making way less money. And, luckily for the world of football, he said yes. But all the really great coaches, especially the ones where we're not just talking about X's and O's, but great coaches who understand the human condition and everything, are people who could have probably been very successful psychologists, right? Bill Parcells was a master of human psychology. Once again, I don't treat them all the same. I treat every player different, right? Because they're all different. I mean, Jimmy Johnson was the same way. We all remember the famous line after he cut, I can't remember the kid's name anymore. His first name started with a D, I think. But, he cut a guy for, falling asleep in a special teams meeting. And the person was asked in a press conference, what would happen if Troy Aikman had fallen asleep in me? So I checked him up. No. He said, I'd make sure Troy was comfortable. He said, I'd make sure Troy was comfortable. That's what he said. But you do treat players differently. Like people talk about treating them all and say, no, you don't treat them all the same because they're not all the same. Right. The thing that would work great to motivate one guy will disengage and make another guy check out.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Chuck Daly, the former Piston coach, his autobiography is called Daily Life. And he spends, I'm going to say 3 chapters on understanding that you have to have a leadership style, but you don't expect your players to understand your style. You have to learn how to adapt your style to each player. And he said Joe Dumars and Isaiah Thomas were totally different dudes. He had to treat them totally differently, right? And Bill Laimbeer, an even different guy. Dennis Rodman. You think about the group he had in that bad boy group? Chuck Daly goes high on that list of master psychologists. And he writes about it really well in his book, by the way.
Yeah. Those of you that, read that book. That's a very good book. And you'll understand a lot more about the Bad Boy Pistons as well. Mr. Scott, what about these Golden State Warriors here? We got Curry coming off the bench now. He's the 6th man. How do you like these new look Warriors here? The young man Poole.
Again, I love Steve Kerr. I love him as a coach, and as we were saying, as Bill was so eloquently presenting about, the psychology of it, the mental part of it, the coaching part of it, but you also got to have that guy. You got to have that guy, man. And we, when I say that, I say a guy like who just kind of came out of nowhere and was just playing on different teams, Kawhi Leonard. He just moved to a team, just kind of quietly. He brought those teams to win championships. And that's one of the things that's missing today with the Timberwolves. Who's the guy? They don't really, where Memphis does have their guy. They have Morant. That's their guy. And
Anthony Towns, y'all backed the truck up.
You saw what happened in the first game. You saw what happened in the first game. He got himself in foul trouble. He's a good player. Oh, he's a great player. But is he really that guy that you say, man, you go out there and get this for us? This is where he can show it to me. This is where he can really show it.
We talk about that all the time. Yeah.
All right. Well, Demetrius, then who's the guy? Steph Curry or Draymond Green?
Oh well, it's no doubt. Well, see, Bill and I have always used the term that dude, and I think it's the same as Mr. Scott's that guy. It is the one, the dude who when it's the chips are down, you know where the ball's going. I know where the ball's going, and then a damn thing you could do about it, right? That dude, right? Steph's that dude. Steph's that dude. Steph's that dude.
The Green Bay sweep. Is it going right? Is it going left? That's all.
Doesn't matter. You can't stop it anyway. 65 toss power trap, as Hank Stram once said. Pop wide open. But I think that what happens with Draymond is what Bill calls a glue guy. He's an exceptional high-level glue guy. Yeah. Draymond
Hall of Fame glue guy.
Hall of Fame glue guy. So Draymond's a glue guy. Yeah. Steph's that dude. Devin Booker's that dude. Karl Anthony Towns should be that dude. But to Mr. Scott's point, he's not. He's a really, really good player. I've never called Karl Anthony Towns that dude. I think he's right. I don't know if they have that dude. They've got some good players on that team. Ja is that dude. Like he said, that's that dude, right?
Edwards might be that dude. Edwards
actually, he's right. Edwards actually might be.
At some point, Edwards should be that dude.
Edwards got the skills. He's got the talent to be that dude.
Yes.
I think with Edwards, the thing is, there's a bit of difference to Karl Anthony Towns. When Edwards just says to hell with that dude, I'm that dude. And I don't know if you do that with Karl Anthony Towns on your roster. But I think Edwards has everything you need to do. He's only 20 years old. Exactly. He has everything to be that dude.
Interesting, Bill. We have that dude coming off the bench, but is Poole the future that dude?
Nope.
I mean, come on,
Jordan Poole's a cute little story.
I know Steph Curry is, but I mean, I was making sure I heard correctly.
I get what he said.
What I said is because Steph is not going to play forever. I mean, he might play for the next 10 years at least. But during that time, we do have a young emerging star named Jordan Poole. Do you think that Poole is the future that dude?
Nope.
No, but I think he's a future
good player.
Very good player, right? I mean,
it's
like not everybody. We just talked about this. I mean, Karl Anthony Towns is probably a top 15, 12, maybe even player, but he's still not that dude.
Yeah.
So that dude list is very short, James.
Right.
That's
not just a talent thing, by the way. That dude is a whole lot more about mentality.
Right.
You got to have the talent and the mentality.
Right. Like Jimmy Butler is probably not a top 12 or top 15 player, but he's still that dude.
He's definitely that dude.
He's that dude. So there's not a lot of that dudes. As you said before,
there's a handful.
Right. Right. A handful. DeMar DeRozan was a really good player for a long time, and now he's a borderline, right? This is we're going to soon find out if he is that dude. But he's one of those guys. He's a better candidate than, and once again, Jordan Poole's a good player, but DeMar DeRozan, at least at this moment, is a much better candidate to maybe join that very exclusive club. I mean, as much as I like Luka Doncic, I'm not completely sold on Doncic being that dude.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree with you.
So,
I haven't included him in that conversation,
right.
but Yeah.
The thing about that dude, my expression about that dude, somebody says, how do you know if a guy's that dude? And I said, it's like porn. You know it when you see it. I don't know what the definition of it is. I don't know what the definition of it is. But when you see it, you know it. you know it when you see it.
Oh man. Hey,
Well, there's the T-shirt for the night.
Yep. It's just like porn. You know it when you see it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Uh-oh.
Speaking of DeRozan, Bill, Middleton goes down. DeRozan drops 41.
Yep.
The Bulls steal a home court advantage from the Bucks.
Yep.
But how much trouble do you think the defending champs are in now? Now that they've given the Bulls that surge of energy, so to speak.
Well, the Bulls are a good basketball team. They're still at least 1 year and maybe 2 or so players away. And once again, not stars. I mean, they need glue. I know I use the term a lot, but they need more glue.
Yep, glue guys are important.
Right, but like if they had a guy like, I mean, obviously,
answer the phone, man. Sorry, sorry, bro. Go ahead. The Bulls need a couple guys. Just go on mute and talk to somebody. We're good.
Think of what they had when they had like a young Noah, right? Yeah, right. They don't have a guy like him right now. Like, use a guy like Noah. Use a guy like.
All right, go on mute, Mr. Scott. I'm trying to get Bill's analysis on the Bulls.
Go ahead. I got it.
I really do want, because I got some thoughts on this series, but I want to know what Bill's saying.
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I mean, it's going to be a compelling series. Well, like, it has been a compelling season, but it's going to be a compelling series because the Bulls aren't quite ready yet, right, to beat a team like Milwaukee. Well, beat them in the series. They can clearly beat them, but beat them enough times to send them home in the series. But the gap is narrowing, right? The gap is narrowing. And like I said, they could use, obviously, young Trevor Noah. Like, they had a player like young Trevor Noah on this team, right?
Joakim Noah? You mean Joakim Noah?
Yes, not Trevor. Yes.
That's the best. That's such a James King moment. I love it. I love it.
King moment.
Was it baseball and football?
Yeah. No, you did. You did Hugh Green.
Yeah.
That was awesome. They need a young Trevor Noah. So good.
That's truly a glue guy. He's going to go long trips.
That's great. I couldn't pass that one up, Bill. Sorry, that was
that is the, no. That was the best. That was thank you. Yes, I did actually.
Even I take Yannick Noah, but not Trevor though, right?
Trevor and Yannick, yes. Oh God, yes, I did mean Joakim Noah, but I mean guys like him and a guy like who else would be like if they could get even a guy who's sort of like when Golden State found not even found, but I mean like Prince, right? Guys like that.
Yeah,
there are a couple of guys like that away, right? Yeah. Guys who've been around the league a little bit, have a particular set of skills, right? Could step up when you need them to, though you don't need it that often. But if a couple of times, like, okay, I do need 25 from you tonight, right? Iguodala, right? Iggy was a glue guy, though he didn't start at one point. But sometimes he'd be like, okay, Iggy, forget the glue guy stuff. Tonight we need 25. It's like, okay. I got 25 for you. Yeah. There are a couple of guys like that away, but they're going to throw a scare into Milwaukee. This is going to go 6 at least, I think.
Yeah, and I think so. To answer your question, no, the champs are in trouble. I'm worried about the Middleton injury, but I think he's probably going to be fine. But at the end of the day, we just spent 5 minutes talking about that dude, and when you open up the dictionary and you scroll to that dude, the picture that's there is Giannis.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, when you can't stop that guy, if Giannis goes down, it's a different story. They got Giannis, I got the Bucks. It's that simple to me. Because there's nobody as good as DeMar DeRozan is. He's a really good player who's not quite that dude.
Right. He's not that dude, and he wouldn't be if they were on the same team, you wouldn't even hesitate to say which one of these guys.
He's number 2 and he knows it. Right.
Right. Exactly.
It's like porn. You know it when you see it. So I just think Milwaukee has that dude, and barring a long-term Middleton absence, I think they're a better team. So they've got glue guys, they've got the dude, they got it all. So I still like Milwaukee, and good teams can win on the road. They did it last year. They know how to win on the road. This is not new or scary to Milwaukee. Losing one game at home is nothing.
Okay, now let's go the other way then, because maybe you can tell me who that dude is, because Devin Booker has went down and is out possibly as long as 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, he put up tremendous numbers those first 2 quarters, and under most circumstances, CP3 is usually the go-to guy.
Yep.
But how important is the loss of Devin Booker to the Suns, and how much of an impact will this have by the time he comes back? What do you think the record in the series is going to be?
So, I will go first. Bill and I stamped Devin Booker back in the fall. We decided he was that dude. I think he dropped 80 or something, and we decided, okay, you get a stamp. So Devin Booker is so it's a big loss.
Yeah.
It is a big loss. I think Phoenix finds a way to get one of these games because they have other good players and they have a leader. You know how I feel about their point guard. I think they find a way to get one of these, and by the time Booker comes back for Game 5, it's 2-2. Yep. And Phoenix still wins the series.
Mr. Scott, do you agree with that? By the time Booker gets back, it's going to be 2-2 and Phoenix still pulls the series out?
I would think so. I mean, that just seems like a very plausible scenario to me. They're a better team. They're, they got good combination of young players, experienced players with Paul. And I think Paul would like to really, get a championship. I mean, I think championships is what makes you the guy, makes you one of the guys, and puts you on track to be that. So, yeah, I think that should happen. I'd be shocked if New Orleans was to beat them.
Yeah, they've been the best team in basketball all year. Phoenix, from start to finish, Phoenix has been the best team in this league, like by far, right? And so, even though they lost their top guy, I think they're good enough. All they got to do is win one of those games.
Tread water. Yep.
Tread water. Exactly. That's it.
So I guess, Bill, I see from that nod in your head, you seem to agree with that. All they have, like you say, all they have to do is tread water and win the last 2 at home, or it'll be 1-1, right?
1-1.
It would be 1 at New Orleans and 1 at Phoenix. I mean, 1 at.
Okay.
So
there
what I think about these playoffs is, as I look at like the Bulls in Miami, and I see Caruso, I see Tyler Hero, and it just really makes me mad about Take My Talents again. I mean, those guys, those are those kind of guys, peripheral guys that really, I mean, that Caruso, man, he'll take a charge. He'll do he's open. He'll take the shot. He'll every minute that he's out there, he's not the most talented guy by any means, but he gives you everything. Hero, another young guy. And so Take My Talents has just ruined the Lakers. And now they keep talking about he wants to go to Golden State, or he wants to go. I wouldn't fool with Take My Talents anymore. I'm through with him.
Well, wait a minute.
Just right there and fix the Lakers. He put that thing together. He needs to stay there and see if he can fix that.
All right. Well, hold on, Mr. Scott, because if you're disgusted with Take My Talents, how do you feel about Kevin Durant? I mean, last night he was held without a field goal in the entire second half.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about that. All of a sudden, he just got small. He just turned into.
And then you got World B. Flat. You got World B flat. Did
Turned
he
into
even
Webster.
touch the ball?
Turned
Did
into,
he touch the ball in the fourth quarter at all? I don't remember.
Yeah,
I
Kevin Durant,
mean,
I think you be careful there. Be careful. He might drop 55 tomorrow.
It don't make a
Because
difference if he drops 55 and the Nets lose.
that's
boy,
but
It's
Bill and I have been telling
hey,
you this team is not constructed to win a championship for a year.
Yeah.
None of this is surprising to us. They're
it's
gonna
well, they
have
should have
games
kept
where they
the
look
beard.
great,
They should
but
have kept the
they're not
beard.
constructed. Right. And
If
I
they
think
kept the
both
beard,
teams they made the same mistake. We have guys that we call Bill Carroll glue guys. You look in the dictionary, and what Mr. Scott said was, take my talents doesn't appreciate the value of a Bill Carroll glue guy like Caruso. Like that's a dude. You need those dudes on your team. Tyler Hero, another great example. These are the dudes you look in the dictionary under Bill Carroll glue guys. That's what you have. And take my talents is like I'll just get Dwight Howard. I'll get Carmelo. You know what those guys are not? They're not BCGGs. That's not what they are. They are not. Those are different kinds of dudes, and you got to have those dudes on your team. And I think that the Nets don't have enough of those dudes. I think the reason that Take My Talents is taking his talents to the golf course or to the beach or to barnstorm his kids' basketball games or whatever the hell he's doing is because he doesn't have enough of those guys. It's very simple. And Milwaukee has those guys. Phoenix has those guys. Those are teams that have. I worry about Golden State, except Draymond is the ultimate guy like that. So I think Mr. Scott made a great point. Those dudes are underappreciated. What they bring to a team, how they help you win basketball games.
Uh, Bill, I mean, we talked about glue guys, but I mean, hey, everybody talks about that guy. Well, for the last couple of years, we've been talking about Kevin Durant being that guy. And like you say, I mean, like Demetrius says, he can drop 50 on you at any given time. But last night, Boston didn't even let him get 50 dribbles.
He's still that guy, though. I mean, I think Bill will agree. Kevin Durant, we're not going to sit there and say, okay, Kevin Durant is no longer that guy. That's a team loss. That's a team loss.
Yep. And I mean, obviously, we talk about his offense, and we should. He's one of the great offensive players of
all time.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. That simplifies it. And he's become a solid to above, somewhere between solid and above average defender through experience and want to. But yeah, he's still a terrific player, and he's still got a lot left in the tank. I don't think in my mind, there's nothing to even doubt about that. But there are some things that you want to look at. So if we're talking about, I like team construction because teams say a lot about what they value, but the roster tells you if they're telling the truth, either to themselves or to you.
Right.
If a team says, "Oh, we really want such and such," we really prize length. Like some teams, all they can talk about is length. We want to have the longest team, right? And you look at the team they put together, you're checking out length. It's like, that's interesting. This guy's got 30 and 3/8-inch arms, and that's right at the threshold for D tackles. But you guys got, what I mean. So if a team says they want something or they care about something, but then you see them not do that, then they're saying things to be saying things. I think that you're looking at an opportunity right here. When I think about how this particular team's built and what players do what and when they do what they do, I mean, I think that you're probably what you think is true is probably true in this particular situation.
Right. And World B flat always throws a monkey wrench into any plan anyway, right? You can't. How do you construct a game plan or anything when that guy's on your roster? Now, I admit I have an unnatural dislike for that man. I generally give my time to Bill whenever that team comes up. I don't like talking about that dude. But when you have Kevin Durant, and all that being said, that dude is immensely talented. He's one of the best basketball players in the world. It's what's between his ears that's holding him back.
Yep.
I just think all that stuff, all the distractions between World B and not taking a shot and Ben Simmons and all these different things. Bill used the term team construction. We talked about this late last year. The construction of that team scared us all along. Neither one of us picked them to win the East. I don't even know if I have them in the conference finals. I never liked the construction of that team. When they had the Beard, we certainly didn't like it. And even after the trade, I've never been comfortable with the construction of that roster. There's not enough BCGGs on that team.
Yeah. Now I want to stick with you, Demetrius, because we could talk about the Beard a little bit here, because hey, I mean, you guys talk about that guy. I think Embiid proved the other night that he is that guy. I mean, uh, 7 foot turnaround, 0.9 seconds left on the clock, drains a three to win the game. But, we talk about the Beard, but I think the real reason for the success of the 76ers is the development and the growth of Maxey since the trade of Ben Simmons.
Yep.
But and the fact now that they don't have to depend upon the Beard, now he can contribute. He doesn't have to carry a team. How scary are those 76ers to you coming out of the East, looking at things that have happened, Demetrius?
They're scary because when I say you look in the dictionary for that dude and it's a picture of Giannis, right behind Giannis is Embiid. Embiid's issue was never, is he talented enough to be that dude? Embiid was always out on the porch knocking on the door. Can I get in and be that dude? But he was never healthy. Embiid has been healthy. When he's healthy, he's immensely talented. But you nailed it. The emergence of Tyrese Maxey, don't sleep on Tobias Harris, and James Harden playing a role. They are scary. I still like Milwaukee a lot. I still love Giannis. Therefore, I like Milwaukee. But Philly is right there. That's the series I'm waiting to watch. That's the series I'm waiting to watch. And the winner gets, it probably Phoenix, but we'll see. That's the series I'm waiting for because Philly is playing well. Guys are playing their role. Maxey stepped up when they needed. That's a good basketball team. And again, don't sleep on Tobias Harris. That dude gives them something, and he is a upper echelon BCGG who gives them a lot. So I like Philly. Still a Milwaukee guy, but I really like how Philly's playing right now.
Yeah, I got the Bucks and the Warriors in my finals, but we'll talk about that as it goes on.
We'll get to that sports crib. Sure.
Mr. Scott, what do you think? How scary are the 76ers coming out of the East?
Well, yeah. Embiid, he's on his way to be one of these guys. I think they could. Boy, I wouldn't really be surprised if they could sneak in there and win it. I really wouldn't be. And I just think, Milwaukee, I think there's been somewhat of a chink in the Freaks' armor. I don't know what it was. It's just something that, one game you can't really go by. But I think it's really that team is really important to have Middleton doing his thing. That's as a Batman to the Robin. You need those too. And I think I don't know if he's hurt. It seems like he might be kind of hurt and might be just kind of.
Yeah, he's injured right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Middleton or Giannis?
No, Middleton's hurt.
Yeah,
Giannis is fine.
Middleton is definitely hurt. He might be out for a couple of weeks also, at least.
Oh, really? He's that hurt? I didn't know. Yeah, that's huge for them. That's huge. So Philly.
Yeah, remember Middleton had to drop 40 in the title series in order for them to get over that.
Oh yeah.
Bill, what do you think about after watching ice cold Giannis? Embiid drop that 3-pointer to win the game. How scary are the 76ers in your view? Bill?
Yeah. Repeat the question so I make sure I'm answering the question that you asked.
How scary are the Sixers?
They're an interesting conglomerate of various talented people who play basketball. But
that's an interesting way to say that.
But they don't. as a whole, as a team, they
basketball
don't
firm.
that much.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a lot of very good players.
So how do you like them versus Milwaukee?
I don't. I mean, I don't. I mean,
Okay, I should have guessed that. But
yeah,
I agree with you.
Yeah, I think that they don't. They would. I don't think it's a. That's probably one of the worst matchups for them of all the teams they could face.
That's their test. I think, as you put it, you can be a conglomerate of basketball players, as Mr. Scott said, a law firm of basketball players.
Right.
But that's not the same as being a team.
Right.
And I still think Phoenix, I think, is the best team in the league. I think Milwaukee is the best team in the East. Now, is Philly talented enough to beat Milwaukee 4 times in 7 games? Yes. Yes, they have that much talent. But then the team has to do it because Milwaukee's not going to give you anything. Milwaukee's not going to pull a Timberwolves and score 12 points in the second quarter when you're up 17. And then when you're up 18 and in the third quarter, you score 12 points in the fourth. That's such coaching. I'm more pissed off than 30 minutes ago when we were talking about that. I'm mad at the Timberwolves coach. I'm not going to digress. Sorry. But you scored 39 in the first and then 12 in the second. Then you put up 37 or so in the third and 12 in the fourth. What the hell is happening there? I'm sorry. We can come back to that in the final thoughts or something, but I don't. That is coaching. I think Mr. Scott nailed that an hour ago. That's coaching.
I sent word for Mike, so I'm hoping that he gets here.
2 hours in, and we're just getting to football. We're just getting to football 2 hours in. That's a record.
Hey.
We're on pace. We're on pace.
Guys, there you go. See that?
I don't care. I've never cared.
Somebody's gonna put a stopwatch. That's right.
You're in California. You don't give a damn. Don't act like you care. We're all in the Central Time Zone. You don't care. It's 8:00 out there. You thinking about dinner. Bill's tired as hell. He's got to work tomorrow.
All right, guys. Well,
all right, let's go.
I think I see Mike in here too. The Hall of Fame it approves a revision to allow up to 9 inductees. It's going to allow for the election up to 3 from the senior category for the next 3 cycles. Demetrius, what's your thoughts on this Hall of Fame expansion?
I think this is a league acknowledging that they've been screwing up for years, right? They're trying to put in a mechanism to correct mistakes. Like I have one personal one. There's a bunch. I could talk about Tony Baselli. I think the old Bengals quarterback Ken Anderson should be discussed. But the one I won't even acknowledge the NFL Hall of Fame until Cliff Branch is in. That's how I feel. Until they put in Cliff Branch, I'm not acknowledging that the NFL has a Hall of Fame. I'm sorry. So, but there's a bunch of guys. Tony Baselli. I don't think Tony Baselli's in. So there's a bunch of glaring omissions. And to answer your question, I think this is a mechanism they're putting in place to fix these mistakes. But going forward on the Sports Crib, I will not talk about the Hall of Fame till Cliff Branch is in. I will give my time. I'll give my time to Mr. Scott or Mike or Bill. I'm not talking about them until they put in Cliff Branch.
Mr. Scott, what do you think about this new Hall of Fame thing here to allow the old seniors in the senior category to get in to the Hall of Fame, at least for the next 3 cycles? 9 new inductees for the senior category.
Well, I have to take a kind of page out of Demetrius' book. To me, if they don't get Jim Marshall in,
Yep.
Iron Man. But I know why he's not in. There's one reason that he's not in. He ran the wrong way.
One play. Wow.
He ran the wrong way. I think that's the only thing. I mean, look, he started. I think he's the Iron Man of the league at defensive end at 225, 232 pounds. Every game, Super Bowls. I mean, if he can't be in, I mean, Mick Tingelhoff is in, the center. I mean, Ed White, he's in. Randall McDaniel, he's in. But if you can't, I mean, obviously Alan Page, Carl Eller, they're in.
Yep.
If they don't put Jim Marshall in, I don't know who's a Hall. I mean, just look at the games he played. I mean, he started first year in Cleveland And then I think in the expansion thing, he came to the Vikings. And he started every game until he retired. Every single game.
Yep.
And I'm
All he
talking
did
about
was
over 20
show up
years.
for work. All he did was show up for work every day. That's all he did, and played
And
very
I just
well
think they
every day.
called that and I watched that game. I'll never forget watching that game on TV against San Francisco. I used to love those games in California because I could get home from church and have dinner and sit down and watch the game. And he gets the ball and he's running, and everybody's trying to tell him, stop. And he, but I think that's what's holding him back. But he should be in. I really believe if this can get him in, I'm all for it.
What's your thoughts on that, Bill?
Well, when I think about the situation we find ourselves in, or they find themselves in, I guess is really more to the point. I think about where do you find difference, right? The differences between when teams are matched up. There's certain things that allow one team to exploit the weaknesses of another team. Sometimes it's it's schematic. Like sometimes a person spots certain things, and that's where coaches come in, right? They figure out these things that give you an advantage with the other team. But I think more often than not, it's players, right? Especially in football, coaching is extremely important. It's still important in basketball, but when you get to professional basketball, the players clearly are the most important thing. And you want to have, ideally, as you talk about, that dude, right? A guy who
Bill. I think we lost you here for a minute.
Okay.
We're talking about the NFL expanding the Hall of Fame to
9. Right. And I heard Cliff Branch being mentioned earlier. And if you really, I could give you a bunch of receivers that are as or even more deserving. Look at what Billy Houghton did with way less talent around him, with bad teams, right? And by the time he retired, he was the leading receiver in the history of the game at the time he retired in receptions as well as receiving yardage. And he's never even been a finalist ever. Look at Art Powell, right? Who also played for the Raiders and, put up amazing numbers for the era. Once again, we're talking about 14-game seasons. And when the passing game was very different because you could put a saddle on a receiver and ride him all over the field. There was no Mel Blount or, illegal contact rule. And look at what the numbers he put up. There's so many, the receivers particularly, there's so many great ones. Stanley Morgan. There's a long list of receivers. There's a huge backlog of receiver that we've maybe have talked about before. And then I mentioned Jacob Green, Joe Klecko, the late, great Roger Brown. I could do a complete show. In fact, I have done shows with guys from Not in the Hall of Fame, have done some great stuff on this. The senior committee in particular has fallen down on the job. I'll be perfectly honest. They've allowed some players who should have been in years ago to not go in while they were still alive. Roger Brown should have inducted while he was still alive to enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
There's a long list of guys, and Billy Houghton is like 91 years old or something, and he's not going to get in, right? It's not this year. The system is broken, and they're sort of half fixing it, right? But they frankly need to add at least another one, if not more, to the number of players that are allowed to be inducted. Yeah. And they need to bring in, I'll be honest, outside experts.
That's it.
It's very clear to me that particularly some of the younger voters just don't have a good enough understanding of the historical sweep and nature of who played and how they played in the past. How in the hell is Kenny Riley still not in the Hall of Fame? There's some of them that really bother me, right? Some of them really, really bother me. There's some glaring omissions, and particularly at certain positions where it's just like, what are we doing? Yeah. How is it possible that some of the guys how is some of the guys who aren't in not in? How is Pete Retzlaff not in? So many of the guys who made incredibly important contributions and changed the way he played the game still aren't in. So yes, it's once again, what's the line? If you stick a knife in my back 12 inches, you pull it out 6 inches. Is that really progress? It's better, but it's a half measure.
Yeah, half measure is a good term.
What do you think, Mike?
I think probably the Hall of Fame committee looked at how many glaring omissions there were and went oh snap, we better do something about this, and now. And so I think that's their sort of way of doing this. So
we're after dark. You can say "oh shit," by the way.
Oh shit. So yeah, I think that's pretty much how it went. You guys all covered it well, so I totally agree with all of you.
Mike, the Bills GM says that the draft will be deep in wide receiver for this year's and years to come because of changes in youth football. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's kind of funny because it's kind of right and kind of wrong at the same time, because I mean, players in junior leagues, they switch positions all the time. So just because there's talented wide receivers in youth football doesn't mean that they're not going to go from wide receiver to defensive back or vice versa.
Exactly.
And these talented wide receivers, they don't have anybody throwing the ball. So now it's quarterbacks you have to involve in this too. So I don't know if he was half joking or what, but it does make sense, but it's completely no way this makes sense at the same time.
Right. I got to jump in right here, James, because I totally agree with Mike. My first thought was, oh yeah, more passing at lower levels, that makes sense. And then I started deep diving it like Mike just did. Wait, so that means there's probably more good quarterbacks too, right? Wait a minute, wouldn't there be better linemen from more pass blocking? Wait, wouldn't there be better pass rushers because they got to teach more pass rushing technique? Now I just think it's absurd. It's idiotic now. I talked myself all the way out of it and thought that's a really dumb comment. Every now and then, somebody decides I got to sound like the smartest guy in the room today. I'm going to say something real clever and astounding, and everybody's going to oh, look what he said. And we fell for the okie doke. The more I thought about this, the more wrong I think he is. Right? There's no objective evidence that says more passing in youth football is going to result in only better receivers. Because he's calling out the receiver position in particular. But then, like Mike just said, how come the quarterback play shouldn't be better? How come pass protection shouldn't be better? It actually doesn't make any sense. The more I thought about it, the more I said, okay, that's nonsense. I don't even, what's he talking about?
Bill, did you drink that cup of tea?
The more accurate statement would say that 7-on-7 culture and 7-on-7 leagues and travel leagues where guys play 7-on-7 from May until September, basically, or close to it, May through August, and you don't have linemen, right? That's just wide receivers, defensive backs, quarterbacks, and maybe a few running backs, but that's the more cogent thing to say. And I don't know if that's what he meant to say.
But doesn't that get mitigated once they get to high school and college football? Once they get into college where they're playing with linemen, does this progress not get mitigated in some way or balances out with other positions?
Here's what I will say. Because you've got, and there's some downsides to 7-on-7 culture too, just like we talked about with AAU basketball. But you've got these, they all have names like hyperspeed or vapor speed, or they all have names that are very, I don't know if you've noticed, they all have very similar names. Like nobody's team's ever like Team Tank. It's always something having to do with, I don't know if he does, all the names are reference to like
faster.
Speed. Right. Everything's about being fast.
Team Turtle. Team Turtle never comes up.
Nobody's got Team Turtle. No one's Team Volvo. Yeah, always, it's never about like safety. It's never about sturdy. But yeah, it's in addition to the skills you develop, it is a culture, right? These guys form relationships. It changes the way recruitment works. But you get quarterbacks, wide receivers, and defensive backs working on certain things. Now, some of these things are positive things, and there's development, but also I see guys developing bad habits because there isn't really a pass rush, or really there isn't a pass rush at all. I was going to say really pass rush. You see guys developing what I call the and one mixtape moves that can only work in 7-on-7. I remember at the Senior Bowl watching Braxton Miller, who was trying to make the transition from quarterback to wide receiver. And there are people sort of oohing and eyeing about his array of moves he used to get his release. And I was like, yeah, the quarterback's on his back by that point. I was not impressed because you have to be more efficient, right? But 7-on-7 culture doesn't stress that efficiency. It stresses guys coming up with this multiplicity of wow moves, many of which don't translate. So that's one thing I will say. But some of it does translate. And some guys do develop things that translate. And is it mitigated by when they add in guys at other positions? I would say no. But now the guys at other positions are now developing, though they don't have 7-on-7 for like linemen or linebackers or whatever, but they're developing other individual developments camps for their positions now too. Like for a long time, it was only quarterbacks that had private coaches for a very long time. And now Chuck and Chip Smith, the Smith brothers, have a very nice practice going of pass rushing, right? Where they have their whole development academy for that. And, Duke Manyweather, who's a friend of mine, is now sort of the top guy now in offensive line, individual skill development. So there's more development individually in non-team settings of really all players than ever before. But none of them have something that's completely analogous to the 7-on-7 culture, where they have like the finals being shown on ESPNU and, big giant trophies and, like I said, Cam Newton and other people like sponsoring Luke Campbell, and I think Plies. Plies also has a team, if I remember correctly, as well. So that's something that's different. They don't have anything quite analogous to that. That's what I would say.
Mr. Scott, what do you think about? Do you think that we're going to have deep wide receiver classes because of changes in youth football?
Well, speed seems to be the key factor there. I mean, if you're really fast, and I went to a Viking game. What was it? They played last year. Then the year before, they didn't play, or they didn't have fans. Well, I went to the last game the year before. The first, I wanted to go into the new stadium, got a brand new stadium. And this friend took me to the game, and she had tickets right in the front where you could really see. And one of the things that the backup quarterback played for the Vikings, but there was a play right in front of me at about the 7-8 yard line where they gave the ball to the running back and everybody pushed him. They just pushed the whole thing till they got into the end zone. And we're like, this looks like rugby. And then I've noticed as I see games, I thought you couldn't do that. I mean, I distinctly remember playing. I said, you cannot push the running, hold him up and push the running back in or advance the running back. So in some ways, I don't know if anybody else has noticed that or seen that in football, but I've seen many scrums where it looks like rugby and they just continue to just push and push.
Yeah.
And
so I think college outlawed it after Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart years ago. I don't know if the league has ever.
It's the other direction. It was already outlawed, and after the hue and cry over the Bush push, they then made it legal.
Sorry. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if the league has ever been outlawed, right? It's always been legal in the league.
It's always been legal to push. You're not allowed to pull a player forward.
Right.
But it's 100% legal to push a player.
Yeah. So a lineman will just get behind the pile, or three linemen will just get behind the pile. And all of a sudden, the running back was at the 2 yard line, and now he's in the end zone dancing.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. So it's always been legal to push the player forward. You can't pull a player forward.
Mike, I always point to you and Bill with your vast dynasty experience here in fantasy football. But Mike, who's going to be the first wide receiver taken in the draft?
I think that's going to be pretty much up to the team, whatever team goes for that pick. So, but I can see sort of maybe like Chris Olave or Drake London, one of those two going first. It just depends on what team that is. So, like with Drake London, he's more of like a Michael Pittman kind of player. He's not going to be running verticals and stuff like that. So if the team, like the Colts, let's just say, they won't be drafting. They'd be way after. But a team like the Colts would probably want more of a Drake London type than a Chris Olave type. So it all depends on who goes first. So my guess, if I have to pick one, it will be Drake London because he just has too many all-around skills.
Yep.
Bill, who's your first wide receiver?
Yeah.
In the draft?
For me, it's Olave, Wilson, then London.
Just who's the first? Not the first. Not 1 through 10.
Okay.
Ask Bill to just give you one of anything. That's your fault. Don't ask Bill to just give you one. That was flawed, man. Hey, Bill, just give me one, Bill. Or no.
Okay.
All right.
Sure. Chris Olave.
Demetrius, who would be your first?
I'll go with Drake London. If it's me, if the Lions were to trade back and select a receiver, I would want it to be Drake London. Complete skill set, like Mike said. Yeah.
Mr. Scott, who would you take, or who do you think is going to be the first wide receiver taken in the draft?
Boy, I don't know. I guess if I was drafting, I would get one from Alabama. I mean, that seems to be
he would be the choice, but he got hurt. If he wasn't hurt, he would be the choice, actually. That's not a bad idea. If he hadn't got an injury, you'd be right. Yeah.
Even the backups, though. I mean, didn't they have, like, I don't know, several?
Yeah. They got another guy who'll go in the second. Mechie will probably go in the second, right, Bill?
Right. Yeah, Jameson Williams will still go somewhere late in the first, and then Mechie probably somewhere mid to late second. Yeah,
and they got another kid who will probably go in like the fifth or sixth, whose name escapes me.
Slate Gordon or Slate
Gordon. Yeah. So that's his name? Yeah.
Slate.
Bill, who do you think are going to be the first running backs taken?
Well, in one order or another, Kenneth Walker III and or Breece Hall, and they're not going in the first round, but they'll go somewhere, once again, mid-second. One of those guys will go off the board, and then not long after the other one will go off the board. Probably within just a couple of picks of each other in the middle of the second.
You concurring with that, Demetrius?
Absolutely. I got nothing to add. I hope it's Walker because he's a Spartan, but I think he's right. They'll go within 3 picks of each other middle of the second round. I totally agree.
Mike, what's your research saying?
I'm going Breece Hall just because to me Kenneth Walker is just more.
Hey! Watch it, man. Watch the nonsense. Go ahead.
He's fast.
I got plenty of ammo for you, Demetrius. I
know.
I got Scott on one side, Mike on the other.
I was like, man. All right. What's wrong with Kenneth Walker again, Mike? Could you tell us that?
Well, I'd be glad to. I'd be happy to break down the Kenneth Walker,
the Michigan State running back. Yeah, exactly. We're gonna let Mike break down the Michigan State running back. Flawed play. In case you don't know, Mr. Scott, Mike went to our arch enemy, the school in Ann Arbor. I generally don't talk about him. I drive around that city when I go home. We can just say I don't like anybody in or around Ann Arbor, Michigan. And Mike went to that school. And I obviously went to the other school about 90 miles west of that. So he is now breaking down a running back from my school, which is patently unfair. I don't like any of this. That's why I keep interrupting him. I don't like any of this. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike. For real, go ahead, Mike.
Don't forget, Demetrius, you're going to have a turn too here now.
It's too bad Haskins isn't very good. I mean,
he'll get drafted. He'll get drafted. It'll be fourth, Bill? Fourth, fifth for Hassan Haskins?
Maybe a little later. Yeah, I mean, their better running back isn't available yet. Blake Corum will be available later, but he's not in this draft. But, yeah, I mean, Haskins is a long-legged, build-up speed power back who doesn't really imagine a slightly slower and less agile version of Latavius Murray, and that's what you've got.
Yeah,
See,
pretty
you
much.
guys see what I did there? I deflected to the Michigan back to stop Mike from talking about the Michigan State back. You see what I did there? All right, Mike, your time's up. You picked Brees Hall. We got it. Let's go. Go ahead. You can do it. I'm kidding.
It's all good. Yeah, I take Brees Hall over.
You
Kenny
guys
Walker.
wonder why we can't have a normal.
I told you I don't care about time.
Yeah.
I've never cared about time. Tomorrow's Friday. I'm gonna get up and go to work. It's fine. That alarm's gonna go off and I'm getting up.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Hall is over Walker, but they're easy, the two best running backs. I don't know if they'll both go in the second. One of them might go in the first. We'll see, but it's definitely going to be towards the end of the draft.
Okay, Demetrius, retort.
Oh no, retort. I agree with him on principle. I got them both in the late 40s, so middle second round. If a team reaches, my guess is they'll reach for Brees Hall in the late first. But I think more than likely Hall goes 42, 43, 45, something like that, and Walker goes somewhere before 50. They're going to be in that group, and I just think that and I'm honest enough to say that Hall's probably slightly better back. Kenneth Walker is shifty, and obviously I like him, but Brees Hall's a good player. I think they're both going to be decent NFL backs. Then I think there's a drop off. I think there's a drop off after that.
Oh yeah. Isaiah Spiller maybe maybe holds that from really falling off, but there is a big drop off. Maybe the 49ers go after Kenny Walker. That'd be an excellent fit for him.
Yeah. And it's tough to pick one. I know your question was pick one, but I think they're that close.
Running backs, I didn't give you a number.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. I think they're really close, and it might be about the team and their scheme, which guy fits better.
Any running backs that catch your eye, Mr. Scott?
Not really, as we don't really need any backs. The Vikings, with Cook and Madison, but now we got Adrian Peterson, and so I'm like, is this a real signing that or is this a signing to retire? One of those kind of things. But it looks like he's coming to camp, and
they need somebody to hold the clipboard.
I'm going to tell you guys, 2 years ago, that dude was productive in Detroit.
Yep.
That dude, I'm not sure this is some retirement signing, man. I think he's got 80 carries in him. He wasn't bad.
They already have two good ones, so I haven't really looked at the,
Dalvin's got an injury history, though, right? It's not unfair to say that.
He is. Yeah. You want to keep him healthy. You definitely want to keep him upright. Madison is really good backup.
Yep.
But can you have three backs?
They
can't all play. You can't.
Right.
You can have four quarterbacks. I guess you could have three backs if you wanted.
Yeah.
And Adrian's never been known for his blocking or receiving.
No. I think if you get down to where he is, he's up on the roster and he's playing, then you got bigger fish to fry. Right? To your point, I don't think they draft anybody. I think that room is full. I don't know if they spent a draft pick on a running back. That's a pretty full running back room right now.
Demetrius, Deebo Samuels is asking for a trade. He said he doesn't want to be used in these expanded roles. And I'm kind of thinking here, are you going to draft a guard that doesn't want to pull? What about a wide receiver, that doesn't want to go over the middle, or one that's kind of slow and don't want to do, doesn't want to go deep. I mean, what kind of precedent is this setting to you? I mean, as a football player, I've never heard of such bullshit. Hey, coach, well, I can't do that play there. It might be too hard on my knees, or maybe, hey, Aaron Donald was on that end. I'm not running that way. I mean, have you ever heard of such shit? Maybe it's just me.
No, this was not just you. I'm with you. The optimal word there was bullshit. Right? I think that ultimately, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, Mike and Bill, his value is as high as it's ever been. And that is due largely because of the way they've utilized him in that system.
Yes.
And so now he is destroying his own leverage. His leverage to get traded where he wants, his leverage for a new contract, because I think he's in the final year of his rookie deal. And ultimately, that's what this is about. He's destroying his own leverage by saying, I don't want to be used in the most effective way my team can use me to help us win football games. Well, that is not how you get more money. That is not how. So I don't understand this. I think he's getting bad advice. I don't understand this, because any team that trades for him is going to want to use him. That's why I think the options are limited, because every team doesn't have a system that supports him. I know.
Draw plays for him.
That's why he's appealing. It's that hybrid way they used him that makes him appealing. And then he comes out and says, I don't want to be used that way. Oh, so you want to line up as an X and take the top off the defense. Oh, wait, you can't do that. That's not what you do. If you could do that, you would have done it in San Francisco. They would have used you in that way. So, yeah, I'm sorry, bro. Anybody who trades for you is probably going to want you to do exactly what you did last year. That's the only reason they want you. So this one is confusing to me, and I kind of like bullshit as sort of a framework of this whole concept, because I don't get it. Mike might be able to break it down for me. I don't know. I don't get it.
Yeah. Come on, Mike. Demetrius invited you to this gunfight.
Tee him up.
It doesn't make any sense to me either, because here's a guy that his rookie year, he was okay. He was, good for a rookie. And then his second year in the league, he had some injuries and was splitting time with another rookie, Brandon Ayuk. And he was just sort of average. And then last year, and they use him in this dual role, and all of a sudden now he's one of the better wide receivers because he does both. So he's going to take away his value because he's a dual role guy and saying, I just want to play wide receiver. The only thing I can think of is that he doesn't want to get more carries, and by getting more carries, he's going to get injured. So maybe he wants to eliminate that possibility. I don't know, but his bread and butter is being able to run like a running back, but play wide receiver. So, and the 49ers don't need him. They got Brandon Knight. I can do the same exact thing that Debo does. So he can price himself out of this market and just be a backup somewhere. I mean, he won't be a backup somewhere, but he won't get the money that he wants.
Yep.
Bill, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, here's the other thing that's at foot. He wants to make sure that if somebody franchise tags him, he's being franchise tagged, right, as a wide receiver.
Exactly.
He wants to make sure that if somebody is, truthfully, I think it's more about, well, not more about, it's about money. That's just, since we're breaking it down, it's about, watch how quickly he doesn't mind being used, however, if they just give him more money.
Exactly.
This is about a guy feeling like he's underpaid, which at the moment he is. Now, I'm going to push back a little bit about his ability to get plays down the field. While in college, and he did run 4.48, which is not the fastest of the fastest, but it's more than fast enough. But while in college, while he was at South Carolina, where they also didn't have the world's most dynamic passing offense, but he did manage to show he could get deep down the field. In this offense, which is built around, one, they really like to run the football, as already been pointed out, but they really, when they do throw the football, they like to throw it in many situations to where they want to find specific matchups. Can we get this guy who's a wide receiver, who's terrific after the catch? Can we get him the ball quickly and get him matched up on linebackers?
Yeah.
Right? That's the sort of the magic of it, right? There isn't a linebacker in football who's a good matchup with Deebo Samuel. There are guys who are less of a bad matchup than others, right? But none of them you don't want that. There's no difference according thinking, boy, I can't wait to get my linebacker in space on Deebo Samuel. And it's Samuel. There's no S at the end. It's just Samuel. But just like with Joe Burrow, just ends in Burrow. There's no
Joe
S.
Burrows.
No,
I like all the Joe Burrows. Yeah.
right. He loves to make them plural. So now we've got a bunch of Deebo Samuels now.
Exactly.
But
no, there's no S on that. Look back on look on your cheat sheet. There's
that's
no
what I
S.
said. But you put an S on it. That was the point I was making. You made it plural. But the issue that we have here is really about two things: money and guaranteed money. That's really what we're really talking about. The issues at place here are money and guaranteed money. He's not making enough money for his own, and really what he's worth. He's not getting paid what he's worth. He's right. He should be getting paid more. And more of it should be guaranteed.
Yeah.
When you are in this wide back role, you take more hits from bigger guys than you would if you were a pure wide receiver, which means that your earning potential for a long term is constricted by the fact that you are more often being used close to the line of scrimmage and being sometimes straight up handed the football or shovel passed or all kinds of things like that, where large people get a chance to hit you. And he has a very physical running style anyway. He runs through people. So it'd be one thing if he was a guy that just was like Tavon Austin, right, where he juke and take off. Tavon, the first time Tavon Austin breaks the tackle will be the first time Tavon Austin breaks the tackle. But Deebo regularly bounces off 2, 3, 4 guys. And you can do that for a while, but you can't do that for a long while. So he wants his money, and he wants it soon, right? If he gets more money and more of it's guaranteed, I will bet you whatever you want to bet that suddenly he won't mind being used in this expanded role so much anymore.
Mr. Scott, what do you think? They're talking about Deebo Samuel, and he doesn't want to do this expanded role, and he doesn't want to get hit by large.
Yeah, I think
guys.
one point you made.
Maybe you should slide. Do like quarterbacks. You don't want to get hit. Get down. I'm sure the coach would go for that.
I think that point I missed and Bill brought up around the franchise tag is important to remember, though. It's the franchise tag for receivers with Devontae and Diggs and Tyreek is now probably 22, 24, maybe higher.
Somewhere
in the franchise tag for running
somewhere in
backs
that 22 to 24 range. Yep.
Yeah, franchise tag for running backs is like 10. So,
eight, yeah, between 8 and 10, somewhere around.
Sorry to cut you off, Mr. Scott. That's a big deal, though.
Well, no, I have to agree with that. I mean, these receivers are getting paid now, but here's a guy that wants to come in, but I don't want you to touch me. Nobody touches me. I think he's hurting his value. I mean, if he wants to get paid, you have to come in like you think you're one of the other receivers that they're getting paid. I think they're getting paid right under quarterbacks now.
Yeah,
wide receivers.
They're right there near the top.
Bill, like I said, dude, when it comes to value and trade value and stuff like that, I have to depend on you and Mike because you guys do this dynasty thing. And, you have to keep players and grade them according to their value. Bill, who has the higher trade value, Deebo or Kyler Murray?
Well, I mean, it's Kyler Murray for a couple reasons. One is we talked about dynasty. One of the things that you have to take into account in dynasty is longevity. I mean, Kyler could be a productive quarterback for 15, 16, 17, 18. I mean, he's what, 23 or 24? So, I mean, 15 years is not at all out the question for him to be a productive player. There is no way that Deebo Samuel is going to be a productive player for 15. I mean, even 10 years would be a bit of an upset because of the way he's used, right? As we just talked about, the way he's used means he's taking more hits and more hits from big people. than almost any receiver in the league does. In fact, probably than any receiver in the league does. So that plays into it, and then Kyler gives you rushing touchdowns, passing touchdowns. I mean, Mike would know the stuff even better than I do, but I don't know what the ADP is on both these guys most recent. But I'm willing to bet Kyler's probably still a few. Oh, maybe not. I don't know. I guess I'll find out. Mike, what is the ADP on these two dudes?
If I have to guess, I haven't looked at it recently, but Kyler Murray's probably like a quarterback, like 5, and Debo right now is probably like inside the 5 as well. They're both, in that area.
And the overall Debo's probably higher though because of the position.
I think it depends on the leagues on settings. But yeah,
single quarterback, 2 receivers and a flex kind of thing. Debo's going to be that
Debo
position
will
is
probably
more
be higher in a
because of the
single
position
quarterback.
value.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mr. Scott, the Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes says that having size at wide receiver will be different because his receivers are usually quick guys, but they're not usually big guys. But how do you think that's going to transfer into getting the Chiefs back to the Super Bowl? I mean, I would have said Juju and at least a bag lunch, but that's just me. But go ahead, Mr. Scott.
Well, I don't know. Tyreek, boy, seemed like a big weapon. I mean, that's.
But Tyreek's gone. Yeah, that's why I'm asking you.
So, and now you want to go with bigger. I mean, I don't know who these bigger guys are. I mean, where are they?
Juju Smith-Schuster is one. I believe somebody just resigned.
Other guy they signed, Mike. I can't remember.
Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
Scantling.
Yeah. Now he's fast. Now he's good for the Packers, but he drops a lot of passes. I mean, his hands to me are very, very shaky. I've seen him wide open. I've watched him play a lot, and he's wide open, and he drops a lot of passes. But he is speedy. I mean, and he gets open, so that might be a good.
I think he caught one more pass than Juju, but that's okay. Go ahead.
So that might be a good. We'll see, but I guess as Bill says, the money thing is, it's the money game. I mean, they didn't want to pay Tyreek, so they've got to go to the bargain bin and see what they can come up with, or the draft.
Yep.
They're not going to have a high pick, to use.
But they have 2 first rounders.
They do, yeah. So they could move, and it's a deep wide receiver draft. So you're actually right. They could grab somebody late in the first that'll be a good player. I mean, Jameson Williams might be down there. I hope so, but I don't know if he'll get to 32. But yeah, there's a deep draft, like you said, and I think they'll be fine.
Yep.
Fine as in we'll win our division. Fine as we'll get to the playoffs. I mean,
definitely get to the playoffs.
Fine as in, the old Pam Grier. Fine as in
every version of Pam Grier was fine. The old version, the young version, Pam Grier somewhere today, fine as hell. So let's get that on the record. Every version of Pam Grier is fine. I think Buffalo is the best team in the AFC, but I think Kansas City is second. So I think they can win the division. It's a tough division, but I think they can win it. I think they're in the AFC Championship game. I happen to like Buffalo a lot.
So,
go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, the thing that their offense is going to be their offense. They're going to be fine. This is as is pointed out, it's a very deep wide receiver class.
Jada Pinkett fine.
All right, fine. Don't use the word fine. Bill. Don't use the word fine.
So I'll lay it out for you. I still like them if they play the Bills again. I still like them against the Bills. The Bills, thus far, their kryptonite has been the Chiefs. Now, maybe they figure it out this year, but I'll believe when I see it. If they get a guy like Christian Watson or a guy like Sky Moore, there's so many good receivers. George Pickens, there's so many good receivers. They have 2 picks. They could spend one or both on receivers. Yep. They could have a they could get one big guy early and then get a guy like Calvin Austin late. And now I won't say they've replaced Tyreek Hill, but Calvin Austin is a very dynamic, like Tyreek, a smaller but very dynamic receiver. And for a guy his size, wins a shocking number of 50-50 balls. It's like a 39.5-inch vertical leap, but he is a tremendous athlete. Yeah. Blazing fast. Maybe not quite Tyreek fast, but 4.32 will get it done most places.
Sky Moore had the fastest 40 at the combine, didn't he?
No, he didn't.
It wasn't?
It was all those Baylor guys, right? Tyquan Thornton.
That's right.
Yeah. Like 3 of the top 5 were Baylor guys. Yeah. Tyquan Thornton, Kalen Barnes, JT Woods were all in the 3 of the top 5. Yeah. Baylor has ludicrously fast athletes. They have a great tradition of bringing in, even Ronald Griffin III, right? 4.41. Yeah. They have a great tradition of bringing in guys who were terrific high school track athletes and continuing to let them run track. So they keep that speed. Yeah. But Sky Moore is really fast, and Austin's even faster. So there's a lot of speed, and there's big fast guys, right? Because at 4.35, but a big guy is Christian Watson. Yep. And not much off of that in terms of pure speed. A guy you can get later, 3rd, 4th round, is Isaiah Weston, who is a terrific downfield blocker, big, strong, mean. This is an amazing wide receiver class in terms of depth. They're going to be just fine.
Yeah, they're going to be Pam Grier, 1972 fine.
There you go, Foxy Brown fine.
Exactly.
Mike.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, because you're getting taller means you're going to be better. What? Like, and if it's MVS that you're hanging your hopes on, like Mr. Scott said, that's not something that I'd be shooting the moon for.
Good luck with that.
Whatever. That's like the only guy that's tall on this team. Juju Smith-Schuster is like 6'1". So, I don't know. But I agree that they're going to get someone in the draft here. Maybe he'll be tall. Maybe that'll be it. Other than that, I don't know what this means. It's ridiculous.
Mike, the Jets have the cap space and they have the draft capital. But are the 49ers just asking too much for Debo?
I don't know if the Jets really need Debo that much. You would like to have a Debo Samuel on your team. And that would help, especially when you have.
I'm sure the Jets would rather have Debo much more than Debo would rather have the Jets.
Probably so. Yeah. Why would you want to go from the 49ers to the Jets? I don't know if anybody's signing up for that mission. And it all depends on what they're doing, but. I think the 49ers are in the driver's seat in this situation, so they can ask for what they want, but I don't know if the Jets are going to actually do that or not.
Well, what do you think here? Bill, come on now. Really? Even if the Jets were to put a package together, but really, do you think that they can, like we said, we know they got the cap space. We know they got the 10th pick and the last pick in the first round.
They have a bunch of picks, and you're thinking about the Lions have the last pick in the first round. They have 4 picks in the top 50, so they have a lot of picks. And my understanding is they have already made a presentation. But let me ask you something: does anybody think that they're one player away? Anybody think they're one player away from hoisting the Lombardi Trophy?
Exactly.
So if you're not one player away from hoisting the Lombardi, then you instead try to raise the total talent level of your team instead of sinking so much cap space in one player at one position.
Totally. Well said.
You want to add to that, Demetrius?
All that being said, it sounds like some shit the Jets might do.
Yeah. Especially around draft time.
That's exactly the kind of shit the Jets would do. So I wouldn't be shocked. But no, they covered it well. It's the real key is the one player away. It's analogous to the Lions. We got a lot of holes. We have no interest in that. We have too many holes, and we have the capital to build and fill those holes the right way. Yeah, I don't even want to have that conversation. It's called a segue. Called the segue, Mr. King.
That's positive segue. With the Lions making their let me make sure I get you on here right, because it seems like everybody's talking about the different things that the Lions should do, and you're talking about keeping of course Jared Goff at least another year. Jared Goff says he's going to be cool if the Lions do draft a quarterback, but if the Lions don't draft a quarterback or trade their pick, is this actually a benefit for the Texans, Demetrius?
So the Texans are drafting 3. I would say the Lions don't give a crap what the Texans do. They're going to do what's best for their team. Now, to answer your question directly, yes. If it's from a standpoint of you, the Texans have a quarterback on your board graded out to be drafted at 3, fine. I will tell you with a high degree of confidence, the Lions are not drafting a quarterback at 2. It's not consistent with the movement of the organization in the last couple of years. They understand that the number 2 pick is an asset for sure. I will reference the classic film Draft Day, and that's sarcasm because there were so many flaws in that movie. We don't have
I was
time.
going to say, I don't know about that.
So we don't have time. But the one cool part of the movie that I did like is early in the movie, he writes a note. Sonny Weaver puts a note in his pocket. And there's this intrigue throughout the whole movie. What's on the note? What's on the note? And ultimately, the note said Vontae Mack no matter what. Vontae Mack's character played by the late, great Chadwick Boseman, right? So he was reminding himself, there's a bunch of noise around draft time. You're going to hear stuff like his teammates didn't go to his birthday party. You're going to hear a bunch of bullshit like that. For me, the note in Brad Holmes' pocket says Kayvon Thibodeau no matter what. Right? That's where I am. I don't care. I don't want to hear any of this nonsense. He doesn't love football. And I know I'm on a tangent, and I'll stop. I don't really care what the Texans do. We're not drafting a quarterback. If somebody offers us a good enough deal, we'll trade it. But you hear all this noise now. You don't get to the level Kayvon Thibodeau has got to if you don't love football. You're not an All-American at a Division I school and considered one of the top 5 players in the draft if you don't love football. Don't tell me Kayvon Thibodeau doesn't have a motor, because I can see. My eyes work. I have glasses, but my eyes work. And I watched 6 games because I knew the Lions were drafting high, and I watched 6 Oregon games last year. You're not going to tell me Kayvon Thibodeau doesn't have a motor. All of a sudden, he's going to get to the league. Something he's worked for since he was 10, 9. And all of a sudden, he's going to lose the passion that made him one of the best players. I don't buy that crap. Kayvon Thibodeau, no matter what. That's the note in Brad Holmes' pocket. To answer your question, it might be what I just said, though. If the Lions trade out, maybe the Texans want Thibodeau. I don't know. So I don't really know why the Texans would be happy. They want a quarterback. They want Thibodeau. If the Lions trade out, I'm fine. If they get value for the asset. If they write down a name at 2, I want it to be Kayvon Thibodeau, no matter what. That's what I want the note to say. So I might have answered your question. I don't know. But I just needed to get my Sonny Weaver Jr. story in there. And Kayvon Thibodeau, no matter what.
Well, I think the insinuation is that the Texans would take Thibodeau. That's why they want the
us to trade
Lions
out
to take either to take a quarterback or to trade out so they could possibly get.
So
Thibodeau.
The direct answer to your question is yes, the Texans would benefit because they would get a fantastic football player in Kayvon Thibodeau. I think they would benefit greatly.
Yeah. Mr. Scott, the Vikings are making a transition to a 4-3 defense. Maybe
no, other way
around. They're going to a 3-4.
Going from a 4-3 to a 3-4.
From a 4-3 to a 3-4. Figuring that maybe some team won't knock them out of the playoffs with 3 seconds to go. But anyway, what do you think about this transition?
Hoping to beat the Lions without needing a last-second record-setting field goal.
Well, again, first I'll just hit on the Lions quick second. The Lions and quarterback. I mean, the Lions had a good quarterback for years. The Lions had a very good quarterback for years. As soon as he got out of there, what does he do? He goes to the Super Bowl. That's what he does. He wins the Super Bowl.
It wasn't the fact that he went to one of the best teams in the league. If Stafford would have went anywhere, he went.
They've had a quarterback and didn't do that. So if they get a quarterback, I don't know what they're going to do. But as far as the Vikings, if that could be very effective with Danielle Hunter and DJ Wanham and this whole new regime coming in. I think the Vikings are really turning the page. They're going to get a good year out of that quarterback, and he's actually been efficient. He's been a top 5 quarterback the whole time he's been in the league. Yeah, he's not mobile, but he stays healthy. He plays every game. He throws single digits touchdowns every year and gets those 35. Interceptions, those 35 touchdowns. So I think with this whole new regime, new defensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator, new coach, new GM, that I'm still, looking. I'm not a real analytics guy. I believe in see the ball, hit the ball. The numbers. It's the people. It's what's in here that helps you win. To me. So I'm looking forward to the season with the Vikings. I think the defense, they keep Hunter, and I think they already got him. DJ Wanham. The defensive backs, Harrison is really getting kind of long in the tooth, and probably wants a lot of money. So I don't know how that's going to work out. But the linebacker, I think in this division, they're going to make a lot of noise. You got your 2 wins with the Lions. You got your 2 wins with the Bears. And so those are givens. Those are givens.
They're givens.
So,
they're automatics. Yeah.
Got that loss to the Steelers that you haven't counted in there, but that's
another win. That's another win. They're in transition. The Steelers are in transition. They don't have a quarterback. They're starting over. So yeah, this is really looking like
it's easy.
This might be a Vegas.
17-0 for the Vikings.
This might be a Vegas.
They got to play the Colts though in there. I think week 15. I think
they do. 16, yes, that's going to be a good game.
16-1. Only lost to the Colts.
Mike, the Colts signed Stephen Gilmore to a contract. You want to talk about that?
Mike needs a break.
Did Mike go?
Yeah, he had to step off for a second.
He'll be back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, while we're waiting about that, the Falcons, edge rusher or wide receiver at number 8, Demetrius.
I think at number 8, you let the draft come to you. I think it would be great if you could say, hey, we're at number 8. We know what we're taking. I don't think the NFL draft works that way because somebody somewhere, and hell, the Giants draft 5 and 7. Who knows what's going to happen at 8? I think you let the draft fall to you, and I think there'll definitely be a receiver there. If Drake London's gone by then, that'll be high, but he might be there. But George Karlaftis might be there. There will likely be a good edge rusher and a couple good receivers there. So my guess is they'll have their choice. I think they still have to pay Kenny Golladay. Have fun with that. Thank you very much for taking that off our hands. But I think if you have an edge rusher with a grade that warrants picking them there, I think you take. I think Karlaftis is getting lost under Jermaine Johnson and obviously the 2 guys up top. And I feel like I'm forgetting somebody else. But Karlaftis is going to be a really good football player. And I think even around 8 is probably about where Karlaftis could go without any issue. So if I'm them, I go 8, probably Karlaftis.
Bill, number 8 to the Falcons, pass rusher or wide receiver?
Well, it could possibly be neither, but for the purposes of the exercise,
right, you didn't give us that option.
For the purposes of the exercise, it'll be if they pass rusher available, that's what they'll go with.
Right. You do need receiver help though, right? Because Ridley is not playing.
They need a lot of things. I mean,
they need a lot of things. Those were just the 2. I could have said offensive lineman or pass rusher. I mean,
and they're a team that might take a quarterback even.
That's true.
They might be the first team to take a quarterback.
Yeah. I do like Bill's logic. If there's a good edge rusher, you take the edge rusher. Right? All things being equal, take the edge rusher.
Yep.
What do you think, Mr. Scott? Edge rusher or wide receiver for the Falcons?
Well, I agree. They need a lot. I mean, so either way, I guess that's going to help them. I keep wondering why all this talk about the Arizona getting rid of Kyler. I mean, if that's the case, that's who they should get. I mean,
that's a good landing spot. You're right. That'd be good for them.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't know why they're talking about getting rid of him. I mean, they've searched for a quarterback for so long at Arizona, and they seem to have one. He's undersized.
It's Arizona. He's the one that took down his pictures from the Cardinals. The Cardinals didn't take down any pictures of him or put any.
Kyler wants out of Arizona. Yeah, Arizona doesn't want to get rid of him. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so they're not talking about getting rid of him. He started this process. Mike, what do you think about that choice for the Falcons?
So here's what their Falcons are at now at wide receiver, and tell me and stop me if any of these guys are going to keep defensive coordinators up at night. Auden Tate, Damiere Byrd, Cordero Hodge, Frank Darby, Austin Trammell, Alameda Zacchaeus. I think they're going to get a wide receiver here because
that makes more sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
Have like no threatening whatsoever. So I think they may be the first team that gets a wide receiver. Plus they got to take, pressure off of Kyle Pitts. And if you don't have anybody else playing on the wide receiver line that is worth anything, then it's going to be 4-man on Kyle Pitts. And you just can't have that. Plus you want to make your quarterback's life easier as well, whether it's Marcus Mariota or somebody else.
Yeah, good point.
Mike, talk to us about that Gilmore contract.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's one of those things where they were really in need of a defensive back. They traded away Rock Ya-Sin to the Raiders for Yannick Ngakoue, and they needed someone to play that position. So he is a little bit old for that defensive back, and he's coming through an injury, but he was and is a great defensive player. I think he's made All-Pro. I think he's made, of course, Pro Bowl, because like what player hasn't been to the Pro Bowl? And it's just going to be the matter of how much pressure they can keep off of him and allowing sort of them to spread the field as well. So I think Stephon Gilmore is an excellent addition. We'll just see how the rest of it plays off, whether Kenny Moore can help out. And they have I don't know if they're going to be re-signing Xavier Rhodes. That might be another situation. So, but for right now, I love it.
Bill, cornerbacks have a special place in my heart. And I always have, to talk about, the position. And, we always talk about how we find these gems and they always seems like every year there's a guy that you kind of look around and you say, well, maybe this will work and maybe it won't. But then again, I look at the team. So, as everybody knows, I'm kind of prejudiced here. But, Bill, what do you think about Ward signing with the Clowns? I mean, it's great for him, but.
I'm going to take that because I don't think we have Bill. So I'm going to say, yep, there he is. What do you think about Denzel Ward becoming the highest paid corner in the NFL? Clowns or Browns? Who made that move?
Was that directed to me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I mean, Ward's a good player, but should he be the highest paid corner in football? But we talked about this before. It's timing that determines who gets to be the highest paid at whatever position, not talent. Yeah. When Kirk Cousins suddenly cashed out and changed the game, it wasn't because he was the best quarterback in the league. It was because essentially it was his turn. His contract came up at the right time.
Yeah.
And he got the bag. And the first bag that was 100 of that length or close to that value that was 100% guaranteed. They locked him up. He's a player they liked. They wanted to be with them for 10, 11 years and all that good stuff. Foundational player, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it was too much money for a very good but not great corner in my mind.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I have to agree with that. I think this is a deal where the move they made with Deshaun Watson, they have now locked themselves up where they got to be all in. They got to be all in for the next few years for sure. So they got to throw everything at the wall. Anything you could do, manipulate the cap, all kinds of stuff, because they think they have a window, and they want to maximize the window.
Right.
And the salary cap is harsh. It's harsh. It is really harsh, and so you don't always get to sustain that window. The Chiefs are actually doing something kind of remarkable, and we'll appreciate it later. And the Browns are trying to do that. Have the quarterback under the big contract and still manage these salaries. And he won't finish this contract with the Browns. Salary cap is not going to allow it. At some point, they have to gut those contracts, because that's how this league works. So I think Bill made a great point. He's not the highest paid corner because he's the best. He's the highest paid corner because he's the most recently signed.
Yep.
And somebody else is going to come up soon and pass him right by. Are we good? Did we lose Mr. King? What's going on? I'm quiet over here, guys.
Maybe.
Okay. No. All right. So it's not me. Okay.
No. Oh, wait. I mean, I can still see him.
Yeah. I think we're going to final thoughts anyway. So
Maybe.
I think we're good. We're going to final thoughts. Oh, yeah. We lost him. Who wants to kick off final thoughts?
I'm going to get going, but I'm just going to say, in the words of the great running back, Freddie Jackson. Fred Jackson, Buffalo, the great Fred Jackson.
Fred Jackson, yeah.
I'm old, but I'm still good.
Love it. Yes, appreciate it. Good to see you as always, Mr. Scott. Thanks for. I'm just taking over as the host, James. Sorry. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you, and I hope we get to see you next week.
We'll have to talk more Detroit.
Absolutely.
We'll have to talk more Detroit too. I've been watching. I'm worried about the baseball team, but everything else, you got a long way to go.
Yeah. I agree with that. I can't push back. Who wants to go next?
Right.
I'll go ahead and go. Since we're talking about Detroit, since he segued me, I obviously never shy away from opportunity to talk about my favorite city or my favorite teams, but it is really a good time. Like, the Lions are going to be on Hard Knocks this summer. I think it's going to give people exposure, not just to the team and the personalities, but Hard Knocks does a really good job of showcasing like these cities and these areas. And I think that's going to be great. And then they recently announced the 2024 draft is going to be in Detroit also. And y'all know your boy going to be in attendance. That's a given. But that event, they estimate, is going to bring $250 million to the city. Yep. Right. So if your city is doing well, you don't understand what that means for the city of Detroit, which is doing much better than it had been. We're back on the upswing. But a $200 million influx of revenue in a weekend, that is people renting hotel rooms. They are getting Ubers. They're buying meals. They are spending money at businesses in downtown Detroit. Those businesses are going to pay taxes to the city of Detroit. That kind of windfall. That's why events matter. People who don't understand, why is it a big deal if your city gets a Super Bowl? Why is it a big deal if you get the influx of people that come in for these events? They spend money. They spend money in your city, and those businesses make money, which makes them more vibrant. They can hire people, and they pay taxes. That tax money goes to the city, right? That's how that works. That's why cities propose and try and get these events. That event's going to be a big deal for the organization. My prediction is by that time, we're going to be a good football team, and it's going to be interesting on that level. But the influx of revenue to the city of Detroit for that weekend is a big deal. And it's very important, and I'm thrilled. From Hard Knocks to where the team is going to the draft in 24, people can say what they want. It's not a bad time to be a Lions fan. I think our time is in front of us. I like everything they're doing. I love Brad Holmes. I think we're going to have a good weekend next weekend. We're going to have a really good weekend next weekend. We got 3 of the top 34. We got 5 of the top 98 or something like that. It's an opportunity for us to do some things next weekend to make our football team better. And there's a couple of opportunities where Hard Knocks in the draft to really shine on the city. So that's pretty exciting. If you're talking, Mr. King, we cannot hear you, bro. I don't know why. We haven't heard you in a while. You can go ahead, Mike, if you want. I would love it if James can jump in at some point because I think he has some good stuff to say about Detroit right there, and I didn't get to hear it.
Sure, I'll go. And you're gonna love the Hard Knocks. I mean, with the Colts last, Hard Knocks has always sort of been just whatever, but when they were with the Colts, it just brought so much more fun, and I really enjoy. I'm kind of a Detroit fan, to be honest with you. I'm like enjoying the way this is going, and I'm excited for you because
I am super excited about it.
Yeah. The way the Colts kind of said the same path where they were just horrible for many, many years, and then they just really turned it on, and it's just so exciting. So I'm excited for you. Yeah. But my last thought is we had a passing Daryl LaMonica today. And my father was just a huge Raider fan. He went to all the home games in the 70s and stuff like that and saw all of that. And I was sort of brought up Raiders, but I decided to go my own path too and became a Colts fan. But Raiders are always to be in my heart just because my father and how much he loved. And he would talk about the Mad Bomber. And in 1963, he was drafted, and just a unique career, too. 1963, he was drafted by two teams, the Packers and the Bills. And then because of the merger, the AFL-NFL merger, he had a choice which team to go with, and he chose the Bills, and he was drafted in the 23rd round. That's just like, what?
How much work would Bill Carroll have to do for a 23 rounder?
Oh my goodness.
Wait a minute. Don't forget, Mike's got 100 dynasty teams.
Oh my God. Yes. Oh my God, the work to put into that too. And then in 67, the Bills traded him to the Raiders, and because the Bills really didn't use him, they were more of a ground team, and the Raiders weren't. They, with Al Davis and throwing the ball deep and always going deep, and they said, okay, let's bring that power for LaMonica's arm, and that's where he earned the nickname, the Mad Bomber. And then another interesting stat. The same year that the Raiders brought Daryl LaMonica in, he threw for 34 touchdowns. And, and you guys know that they didn't throw the ball then, but 34 touchdowns in 1969, that 34 touchdowns still remains a Raiders record. No one has thrown more than
12-game season, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think so. 10 to 12. Yeah, it had to be. And nobody's done it. No Raider quarterback has broken that 34 touchdown record. So that still stands today. And then, definitely rest in peace, Mr. Daryl LaMonica.
Absolutely.
Take us home, Bill.
So I'm going to give you a quick twofer. There are some players who are quietly excellent. And because they're so quietly excellent, they pass sometimes from memory, or not all the way, but more than they should. And on this day in 1994, Eddie Murray, maybe because of his personality or lack thereof, is a player that I think a lot of fans, particularly younger fans, don't realize how good he was. But he set a record for switch hit home runs in a game with 11 times. And that's a quick one, but the one that I think is sort of a sea change was when in 2001 in the NFL draft, the redshirt sophomore quarterback from Virginia Polytechnic Institute named Michael Vick was taken first overall by the Atlanta Falcons. So for the first time, the first overall pick in a draft was a black quarterback. And all the black quarterbacks that have had success since then, and the ones who've been taken very early, including number one overall, like Cam Newton, in an NFL draft, sort of owe a bit of regret of gratitude to Michael Vick. Now, he was an imperfect player and an imperfect man, as I think we've all actually would acknowledge. But he took upon himself in that moment changing the way the quarterback position was thought of, seen, and played. And both for good things and maybe for things that were not as good. But what he did was he crystallized the way people saw the position and the way race impacted the way people saw the position. It was impossible not to have race play a part in how people discussed, saw, and perceived Michael Vick. And some people thought he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And he was incredibly exciting. That Sugar Bowl game against Florida State, I watch it every time it comes on ESPNU or ESPN Classic or wherever I can see it, because it's worth watching. It's one of the first times that you have that level of athletic ability all across the football field, but the best athlete anywhere on the field is a quarterback. And for a long time in his career, he leaned on that, and maybe a little too hard, some might say. And it took him, almost 10 years to really start unlocking his potential on the mental side. And I always wonder if a guy like Andy Reid had gotten him early in his career, how different is the Michael Vick story?
Yeah.
If he goes to a true QB guru at the beginning of his career, how differently do things turn out? How are we discussing him? Is he talked about? First of all, he's a Hall of Fame level guy because he had all the ability, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, left-handed but huge arm, and officially a 4.43, but I know people that went to Virginia Tech when he was there, and he regularly ran sub 4.3 apparently on really a fast surface at Virginia Tech where they time, but a rare athlete who had everything: strength, power, whatever, all of that across the board. And he made an NFL, made the NFL as a whole come to reckon with black quarterbacking and what it means, right? There have been other black quarterbacks who had success, right? And there have been other black quarterbacks who've been taken early, but he's the first pick in the entire draft. And he became, for a while, a bit of the face of the NFL, right? He's on the cover of Madden. He's doing commercials. He's changing the way people perceive black quarterbacks. And like I said, it wasn't all smooth, but he changed the game. And he's not a Hall of Fame player, but his impact will last, right? He will have an impact on the game that will last long after he's remembered as a player.
Yep, totally agree. Good call.
Hey, thank you guys as always. Always fun talking on the Sports Crib.
Absolutely. Good to see you, Mike.
See you
Good seeing you
Friday.
guys.
See you next week. Make sure
Yes.
you get up and go to work in the morning, Bill.
Yes, sir. We will.
Me and Mike will go have some dinner. You guys, talk to you guys later.
All right, guys.
Have a good
See you
one.
later.
Take care, everyone.
Have a good one, Bill. Talk to
You
you next
too.
week, man.